Chapter 655. His son was a little repulsed. Li Xiqing could see it, especially when he heard him call him Uncle Lu. He felt like a cat was scratching his heart. He wanted to catch the little guy and teach him a lesson to see who was his father. But he couldn't. Li Xiqing had a headache, took off his shoes and went into the colorful floor mat. Li Jianqian was watching Li Mosen play the game. Li Xiqing walked to the middle of the two small beds and squatted down, just opposite them, and asked, "What are you playing?" "New game. I don't know what it's called," Li Mosen answered. He tried to kill the monster with his hands, but he was killed after a few moves. He was a little dejected and shouted, "It's too difficult to kill this big boss. I've died so many times. I'll do it." Li Jianqian took the phone and killed the monster, but after a long time he was killed twice. He was so angry that he threw the phone away. "It's too difficult to play. I don't want to play anymore." The phone happened to be thrown in front of Li Xiqing. Li Xiqing picked it up with his big hand and clicked to start again. Wow! Wow! The sound of the monster being killed came constantly, and Li Mosen's thumb moved. He immediately went to the opposite side to watch Li Xiqing play. Shio shio shio, this was the sound of a big move in the game, and Li Jianqian knew it clearly. However, the big move he made was usually gone after 2 or 3 sounds, but Li Xiqing's big move was non-stop. "Wow, so powerful!" Li Mosen exclaimed. "Desu, come and see, your father is so powerful." Li Xiqing heard this "your father," and immediately had a better impression of Li Mosen. His fingers moved quickly on the phone, and then Li Mosen's exclamation was even louder. "Wow wow, the monster is dying. He's down to half his HP." Li Jianqian's ears moved and his heart was a little itchy, but he still did not go over. He said with a straight face, "He is an adult, of course he is powerful." Su Qianxi laughed and said, "But Dad is playing for the first time. I am also an adult, but I don't know how to play this game." Li Jianqian pouted and sat straight. Bang! The sound of the big boss being killed rang out. Li Mosen's face was already full of admiration. "Uncle is so powerful, much more powerful than Uncle Luo. This is the second level." Li Xiqing's eyes softened as he handed the phone to Li Mosen. "Come on, call me if you can't beat him." "Thank you, Uncle." Li Mosen happily took it and ran to Li Jianqian's side. He sat on the ground and played with it. Li Jianqian watched him play and couldn't help but look up at the man sitting opposite. Li Xiqing was also looking at him. His dark and beautiful eyes were unspeakably deep. Li Jianqian met his gaze and blushed. He snorted and turned his head away, ignoring him. Su Qianxi felt a little distressed. When she was about to say something, Li Xiqing pushed her away and said, "Let's go outside." Li Jianqian was a little surprised. He thought that this man would talk to him. Does he not want me to forgive him? Why wasn't she talking to him? Li Jianqian felt a little angry. There was a lump in his throat, but he held it in. Su Qianxi looked at Li Jianqian and nodded. She stood up and walked out with Li Xiqing. Seeing that they were really ignoring him, Li Jianqian's little face scrunched up in anger and he shouted, "What's the big deal?" Chapter 656. Both Su Qianxi and Li Xiqing heard Li Jianqian's words. Su Qianxi was shocked, but Li Xiqing curled his lips as if he had expected it. "Don't you go in and comfort him?" This was the first time Su Qianxi had seen the little guy so agitated, as if he was angry. Obviously he was angered by Li Xiqing. If she did not go in and comfort him, would it make him hate Li Xiqing even more? Thinking of this, Su Qianxi felt a bit distressed. She knew that Li Jianqian liked Lu Yihan very much, but she did not expect that he liked him to this extent. It could be said that Li Jianqian regarded Lu Yihan as his father. This guy was 4 years younger than Lu Yihan, and Li Jianqian was so stubborn. If he was annoyed again, what should she do? Li Xiqing did not care. Seeing her expression, he smiled and put his arm around her waist, whispering, "I have my own plan. This boy is my son and I know him better than you." "Go, you don't even know him." "How do you know him?" Su Qianxi pushed him, thinking he was comforting her. Li Xiqing rubbed her hair and chuckled. "How can I not know him? He also came out of my body." Su Qianxi blushed and reached out to hit him. "Go, be serious." Li Xiqing grabbed her hand and pushed her against the wall in front of them. Rubbing his thighs gently, he whispered in her ear, "I can be more improper, you know?" Su Qianxi's face was even hotter, and her heart suddenly sped up. She whispered, "Stop it. We are still in the hallway. It is not good to be seen by the children." Li Xiqing laughed, pulled her up, put his arm around her waist and walked out of the living room with her. Before they went out, they heard Li Jinan's voice. Li Xiqing had not seen his younger brother for too long. Hearing his voice, he could not help but speed up, but as soon as he went out, he was immediately surprised and shocked. Li Xiao and Li Beixing were also in the living room, looking a bit dusty as if they had just come back. Noticing the movement behind them, Li Xiao and Li Beixing both turned their heads and looked over. Li Beixing looked like he had seen a ghost and was dumbfounded. Li Xiao, on the other hand, was slightly stunned. He looked at his daughter-in-law, who seemed to be in a good mood, and found it hard to believe. Li Beixing immediately got up from the sofa and walked up to Li Xiqing. Touching him, he exclaimed, "Oh my God, he's alive." Su Qinxi couldn't help laughing. Even Li Xiqing couldn't help but smile and call out, "Brother, Dad, third brother, I'm back." It was a familiar voice, a familiar face, but his figure seemed much thinner. Li Beixing laughed loudly, opened his arms and hugged Li Xiqing. Unable to contain his joy, he said, almost cheering, "Second brother. It really is second bro." Li Xiao was behind and saw everything clearly. Holding his cap in his hand, he walked toward Li Xiqing. Li Xiao's eyes were slightly red. After 4 years, Li Xiao's hair had turned white and he looked much older. Li Xiqing's heart ached. Looking at Li Xiao, he gently pushed Li Beixing away and said, "Dad?" Li Xiao walked up and reached out to touch him. He put his hand on his arm and nodded. "You're back?" His voice was slightly choked, so faint that it was hard to hear. Li Xiqing nodded. When he was about to speak, he heard Li Xiao roar, "Kneel!" Chapter 657. This shout, which caught everyone off guard, caused everyone to be startled. Last time in the study, Li Xiao asked him to kneel, but he did not. At that time, Li Xiqing stood straight and said that he was not wrong. This time, Li Xiqing looked unexpectedly calm. He gently pushed Su Qinxi away, bent his legs and knelt down. "I'm sorry, Dad. I was wrong." Li Xiao looked at Li Xiqing's bluntness and gasped. Eyes red, he roared, "Beixing, bring me my military whip." "No need." An old voice came gently. Captain Li walked toward Li Xiqing with a cane. Glaring at Li Xiqing, he raised his cane and hit Li Xiqing twice. "I have already hit this bastard dozens of times. My hands are sore. Do you want to kill him?" Li Xiao went up to help Captain Li and did not say anything. Li Beixing took a glance and pretended to be deaf and dumb, pretending not to hear anything. Li Xiao stared at Li Xiqing, snorted and asked, "Where the hell have you been these years?" Li Xiqing was silent for a moment, looked up at Li Xiao and asked, "Dad, can I stand up and talk? My son is still in there. It's not good to see him." When Li Xiao heard that, he was so angry that he laughed and almost kicked him. Li Xiqing quickly dodged and stood up from the ground. Su Qinxi was afraid that he would fall, so she quickly held him and called, "Dad?" Seeing this, Li Xiao snorted, looked unhappy but did not say anything. He went to the sofa and sat down. "I heard that the fire was very big that day. How did you escape?" He also heard that this guy seemed to be beaten half to death, so serious that he could not move. How did he escape later? This question not only Li Xiao was curious, but even Captain Li, Luo Zhan, Su Qinxi, and the other 4 people had already stretched their necks, waiting for his explanation. Li Xiqing walked over and sat down in front of Li Xiao. Li Beixing, Li Jinan, and Li Xiao sat together, while Su Qinxi and Li Xiqing sat on the sofa with Grandpa facing each other. Luo Zhan sat on the sofa and made tea. Seeing that Li Xiqing was not whipped, he was a little disappointed. "I was saved by Tang Menjing." The first sentence shocked everyone, especially Su Qinxi, who held his hand and was shocked. Li Xiqing held her hand and said slowly, "She came back and Bo Xiao followed her in and shot the policeman who was watching me. Then Bo Xiao and Tang Menjing carried me out. Rong Anna led the police away and went to pick them up. And I was thrown in the trunk. I was thrown in the trunk. Then they sent me to a small hospital. I was in a coma for a week, and was lying in bed for more than half a year." Li Xiqing and Li Enxiao. Lu Sa and Qin Shuhua were busy in the kitchen. Qin Shuhua came out with fruit and happened to hear what Li Xiqing said. She was so distressed that she burst into tears. Putting the fruit on the table, Qin Shuhua sat next to Li Xiao, her eyes red. Su Qinxi was not much better than Qin Shuhua, holding Li Xiqing's hand tighter and tighter. Chapter 658. Jing Sa's real identity is a criminal police officer. She asked me if I would like to be undercover with her. I was injected with drugs by Tang Menjing and became addicted. "You took drugs?" Li Beixing looked shocked and stared at Li Xiqing. Li Xiqing looked at Li Beixing and nodded. Su Qinxi subconsciously thought of the voice she heard that night. Li Xiqing's pain, Li Xiqing's roar, Li Xiqing's helplessness, so real. It turned out to be true, it was true. Holding his hand tightly, Su Qinxi's heart was torn. Jing Sa promised to help me get rid of drugs, but the condition was that I must help her wipe out the drug trafficking gang. I agreed, and then we spent half a year to get rid of drugs. Under the cover of Jing Sa, I trained with those criminal police officers, pretending to be imprisoned while collecting evidence of their crimes with the police. Although the words expressed were very simple, Luo Zhan's mind seemed to have imagined how thrilling that situation was. Shocked, he couldn't help but think, that's third brother. If it were him, he would definitely die there. Just last month, I tried to disclose information to her and let her help me reach a cooperation with TL. I succeeded. The time to defeat TL has been greatly shortened. Only by solving TL first can we go deep into the Bo group. Sure enough, as soon as TL fell, the Bo group couldn't help but start to transfer goods and clear their guilt. However, because of this, I was exposed. In the end, everyone was even more shocked. But fortunately, there was no danger. Now I'm back, right? Li Xiqing held Su Qianxi's hand tightly, his slightly rough hand gently stroking, his voice low and soft. It's okay, don't be afraid. Old Master Li immediately thought of the news he had seen this morning and said, the Bo group you are talking about, is it the Bo musical instrument? I heard they ran away. What should we do? Li Xiqing's eyes darkened and he said, this is the disadvantage of being exposed. If we had another half a month or a month, we could have perfectly hidden and arrested all of them. This time the operation was too hasty. We have already alerted the enemy, and the leader has run away. However, they can't protect themselves now and they won't come back in a short time. More importantly, he had bought a line. As long as they couldn't bear it and couldn't help but touch that line, the people he arranged could capture them at any time. There shouldn't be a problem with this threat. Li Xiqing's eyes were slightly deep and he was still thinking. Qin Shuhua burst into tears, hit Li Xiao and scolded, Xiqing has suffered so much outside and you still want to hit him. What kind of father are you? Li Xiao sighed and did not speak. Lu Sa was almost done in the kitchen. She didn't know what they were talking about outside. Seeing such a heavy atmosphere, she shouted, let's eat. Call the children out for dinner. Then you won't go back in the future, will you? Li Xiao asked. Li Xiqing shook his head. No, I won't. Leave the rest to the police. It has nothing to do with me. That's good. Let's eat. Li Xiao stood up and the family quickly went to the table. Su Qianxi took the children to the dining room, and Li Jianxian's little face was not very good. Chapter 659. Ursa wants to eat crab. Li Jianyue's sweet voice sounded, pointing to the big red crab on the table, smacking her lips and looking at Su Qianxi. Mom, I want to eat cakes. Su Qianxi smiled, took a crab and said, let Dad open it for you, okay? Li Jianyue looked at the red crab, drooling, and immediately nodded. Su Qianxi gave her other dishes and said, eat something first and let Dad open it for you. Li Xiqing's lips curved slightly, and he directly opened the crab roe with his long fingers. He carefully removed the inedible parts of the crab roe and asked, can Ursa dip it in vinegar? Yes. Ursa licked her mouth and looked at the red crab roe with desire. Li Xiqing took it in his hand and dipped it in vinegar. He deliberately teased her across Su Qianxi and said, what did you call me? Dad. Li Jianyue had no position or principles at all. She stared at the crab roe in his hand and shouted, Dad, I want to eat that. Li Xiqing was overjoyed and moved closer to her mouth. Li Jianyue directly opened her mouth and smiled happily. Su Qianxi scooped a spoonful of rice and sent it to her mouth. Li Jianyue also opened her mouth and kept chewing. Li Jianxian looked at this side while digging for rice. He looked at Luo Zhan enviously and shouted, Uncle Luo, I want it too. Luo Zhan ate and didn't even want to look at him. He said, let your dad open it for you. Your dad is very good at opening crabs. Li Jianxian saw that he was unwilling, turned his head away unhappily, snorted, and went to catch a crab. But, staring at the red crab, Li Jianxian was at a loss. Li Mosen looked at him in surprise and asked, Daisu, do you know how to open a crab? Li Jianxian felt provoked and said with a sullen face, of course it's not a big deal. Uncle Lu taught me. It's very easy. With that, he took the crab and shrank his hand because of the heat. He slowly peeled the crab roe for her and said, eat more. The crab in this season is especially delicious. Su Qianxi knew that he did it on purpose. Subconsciously glancing at Li Jianxian, she saw that his little face was wrinkled and his eyes were a little red. He turned his head and glared at Li Xiqing. He simply put the crab on the table and stopped eating. If you don't want to eat, then don't eat. What's the big deal? Li Jianxian took the spoon and dug the meatballs not far in front of him to eat, but he was unwilling to call Li Xiqing dad. The adults looked at each other and then at Li Xiqing. Li Xiqing was eating slowly, his movements smooth and elegant. He did not look like he wanted to open a crab for the child at all. Su Qinxi nudged him and said, Daisa likes it too. Oh really? Li Xiqing looked at Li Jianxian and asked, do you want to eat? I'll open it for you. Li Jianxian looked away with red eyes and said coldly, I don't want to. Oh then forget it. Li Xiqing didn't mind at all. He peeled a crab leg, dipped it in vinegar and brought it to Ursu's mouth. Ursu happily opened her mouth and ate it, shouting happily, it's delicious. Thank you, Dad. The smile on Li Xiqing's face was rare, and he subconsciously glanced at Li Jianxian. Chapter 660. Li Xiqing chuckled and shook his head at her. Su Qinxi finally couldn't help it. She put the crab roe that Li Xiqing had just dug in her bowl into Li Jianxian's bowl and said, Daisu, eat some. It's delicious. Li Jianxian looked down and was a little happy, but he did not eat it immediately. After picking up something else, he slowly ate it with the rice. Is it delicious? It's okay. I don't like it very much now. I only eat it because you gave it to me, Li Jianxian said deliberately without looking up. Su Qinxi couldn't help but laugh. Li Xiqing laughed and said, I was not so proud when I was a child. Li Jianxian blushed and glared at him unhappily. After finishing the rice in the bowl, he got off the stool and shouted, I'm full. After saying that, he scurried away. When Li Jianxian ran away, Su Qinxi was not happy. She reached out and pinched Li Xiqing's waist and said, That's your son. Were you angry with? Childish. Li Xiqing touched his waist with some grievance and said, It is obvious that the boy is angry with me. Why don't you hit him? Why do you hit me? Su Qinxi glared at him, pushed him away and turned back to eat. Li Jinan saw them like this, smiled and bowed his head to eat. Finally back. The old Su Qinxi. After dinner, Su Qinxi asked Li Mosen to take Li Jianxian to play, and she went to the little guy's room. Li Jianxian did not turn on the light and the light was very dim. The little guy was sitting in front of the stool drawing alone. Noticing that Su Qinxi came in, he immediately closed the album. Su Qinxi turned on the light and saw the album under his hands. She gently closed the door and came over. What are you drawing? Su Qinxi's voice was soft. She walked to the little guy, half bent down, and glanced at the album he hid under his hands. Can you show it to Mom? Li Jianxian heard it and was a little unhappy. He shook his head. This is my secret. Mom doesn't want to see it. She chuckled and rubbed his hair. Little thing, secrets. Mom, although I am still a child, I also have secrets. Li Jianxian pursed his lips unhappily and slapped her hand away. Our Daisu has grown up and has his own little secrets that he doesn't want his mother to know. She looked sad and sat down on the bed behind him. Don't you like Dad? I hate him. Li Jianxian was unhappy, very unhappy. What? Li Jianxian didn't know why, but he just didn't like it. He hated it. Why did he talk to Ursu instead of him? Why did he open the crabs for Ursu but not for him? Li Jianxian felt it was unfair, but he couldn't bring himself to say it. A pair of tender little hands holding the album in his arms, Li Jianxian quietly pouted. Let Daddy take us to play tomorrow, okay? Where does Daisu want to go? Li Jianxian shook his head, feeling wronged and said, No, I don't want to go with him. I miss Uncle Lu. Mom, can you help me call Uncle Lu? Uncle Lu would not treat him like this. Uncle Lu was very good to him, unlike this person who was not good to him at all. Chapter 661. Uncle Lu is very busy and Uncle Lu is not as good as Dad. I think Uncle Lu is better than that person. Li Jianxian was about to cry and his voice was choked. What's so great about him? Uncle Lu is much better than him. Li Jianxian had been sensible for a long time and he had not cried for a long time. Now his expression, although he did not cry, was more distressing than if he had cried directly. Su Qinxi reached out and pulled him over, coaxing him as before, hugging him and whispering, Don't cry, Daisu is a boy. Li Jianxian felt even more wronged, holding his mother's shoulder with one hand, sobbing but not crying out. Dad likes you very much, but Daisu doesn't seem to like Dad very much. If Daisu sees a person who doesn't like you very much, will you still play with him? No way. Su Qinxi whispered, This is the same reason. No one wants to play with someone who doesn't like them. I don't want to play with him. I just hate him. Li Jianxian buried in his mother's arms and denied. I don't want to play with him. He is your father. Haven't you always been envious of other children who have a father to lift them up? Let's find a father to lift us up, okay? That's Ursu. I'm not envious. So childish. Li Jianxian wiped his tears and snorted. As soon as Li Jianxian's voice fell, he heard crisp laughter coming from outside. Li Jinyue's lively and happy laughter sounded very attractive. Soon, the door of the room was opened and the laughter was even louder. Li Xiqing came in and a little girl was sitting on his neck, laughing constantly. Li Jianyue held Li Xiqing's head, her little hand on his forehead, and Li Xiqing's big hand was holding the little girl's waist, walking in. Li Jianyue looked very happy and shouted, "Brother, brother, raise up. It's so fun." The bell-like laughter was refreshing, and Su Qianxi felt warm when she heard it. Li Jianchen saw this scene and he felt even more unhappy. The tears of grievance that he had tried so hard to hold back suddenly became hot again. However, he was a man and he could not cry. But, looking at his sister riding on the man's neck, Daisu's heart was indescribably uncomfortable. "Nice, poo. He didn't care. What's so great about it?" Turning his head away, Li Jianchen ran to his small bed and said, "You're so noisy. I'm sleepy. I want to sleep. If you want to play, get out." Li Jianyue screamed, followed by a cheerful laugh. Her two pigtails waved in the air as she supported herself with her fair and chubby hands. "Big brother, come and play with us. Daddy is so tall." Li Jianchen breathed quickly and felt like he was about to cry. He covered his head with the quilt and shouted, "You're so annoying. Why are you playing here? Go out and don't disturb me." Li Mosen ran in from outside, holding a large piece of the puzzle in his hand. He shouted happily, Uncle, look, I've put it together." "Wow." Li Jianyue looked at him in surprise. "Brother Mosen is too amazing. My brother has been trying for a few days, but he still can't finish it." Chapter 662. Hee, Dad is the best. Li Jianyue held Li Xiqing's head, feeling a little proud. But when she saw her brother curled up in the quilt, she said, "Dad, I want to go down." Li Xiqing looked up at her and said, "Okay, get ready, I'm going to throw you away." Then he threw the little fellow, scaring Li Jianyue and making her scream. The big hand rolled her up and quickly held her in his arms. Li Jianyue laughed loudly, and there was a layer of sweat on her body which was a little steaming. Li Xiqing touched her body and said, "Let Mom take you to take a bath." "I want to take a bath with Dad." "Mom too, let's take a bath together." Li Jianyue was a little excited, holding Li Xiqing's arm. "Dad, okay." Li Xiqing's eyes were a little smile and his lips were raised. He picked her up, pinched her little face, looked at her lovingly and said, "No, there is a difference between men and women. We can't take a bath together. Dad and brothers will take a bath together and you and Mom will take a bath together, okay?" Li Jianyue pouted unhappily and said, "Okay." Li Xiqing rubbed her little face, turned his face and said, "Kiss Dad." "Mwah." Li Jianyue hugged Li Xiqing's neck and kissed his face. Li Xiqing was overjoyed and pointed to the other side of his face. "This side." "Mwah." Li Jianyue kissed both sides and said with a smile, "Mom, kiss." Su Qianxi held the little fellow in her arms, and Li Jianyue kissed both of Su Qianxi's cheeks. Li Xiqing looked at his daughter and wife, and his heart seemed to melt. He reached out and hugged them, looking at Li Jianchen who was wrapped up in a ball on the small bed in the corner. Su Qianxi lowered her head and whispered to Li Jianyue, "Go, wake up brother to take a bath." Li Jianyue immediately got off Su Qianxi, went over and pulled the quilt of Li Jianchen and shouted, "Brother, take a bath." "I'm sleepy. I want to sleep." Li Jianchen covered himself with the quilt. His voice was muffled and sounded a little nasal. When Li Jianyue heard that, she pouted and exposed him mercilessly. "Brother is lying. I can't fall asleep at this time. You'll only fall asleep if you play games with Brother Mosen." Li Jianchen covered his head and was unwilling to get up. Li Xiqing strode forward and lifted the quilt off Li Jianchen's head. As soon as he lifted it up, a gust of hot air immediately surged up. Only then did he realize that the little fellow was already drenched in sweat. It was very hot. Li Xiqing threw the quilt away in disgust and lifted Li Xiqing up by his collar. Li Jianchen was lifted like a chicken, and his whole body was suspended in the air. Immediately he felt that his dignity was being challenged. His hands and feet flailed as he shouted, "Let me go! Let me go, you bad man!" Li Xiqing narrowed his eyes, exuding a dangerous aura. Looking at the little guy, he asked, "What did you call me?" Although Li Jianchen was young, he was also extremely sensitive to the emotions of people around him. At this moment, seeing Li Xiqing like this, he knew that he was very likely to be unhappy. His heart skipped a beat, and Li Jianchen was a little scared. But soon, not to be outdone, he shouted, "Bad man! Let me go, why are you grabbing me? I hate you." Chapter 663. Li Mosen blinked and silently watched from the side. Li Xiqing saw him like this, put his big hand on his head and said, "Let's go take a bath." The little guy heard the words, was a little surprised and quickly followed. The little heart was pounding, and Li Mosen's mood was actually a little excited. As if he was also his father. Li Jianxian struggled all the way and shouted, "Let me go, let me go. You bad man, I don't want to take a bath with you." Li Xiqing was unhappy, lifted him up and spanked him twice. "Bad boy, don't you need to take a bath? It's none of your business. I want Uncle Lu. You are not good to me. Only Uncle Lu is good to me, I don't want you to be my father." Li Jianxian shouted, and what he said made the originally kind atmosphere around Li Xiqing immediately cold. Li Xiqing stopped and Su Qianxi saw this and was shocked. "Honey you." But before Su Qianxi's words were finished, Li Xiqing had already opened the bathroom door, pushed Li Mosen in and immediately locked the door. Su Qianxi was shocked. This guy. Is he going to close the door and beat the child? Li Xiqing did not like Lu Yihan and Su Qianxi knew this. This boy undoubtedly touched Li Xiqing's bad luck. What should she do? Su Qianxi went to knock on the door, and Li Xiqing's voice quickly came from inside. He said, "I will give them a bath. You take Ursa to take a bath." But how could Su Qianxi rest assured? Su Qianxi had never beaten Desu before. Although this little guy was young, his mind was much more mature than children of the same age. His self-esteem was also very strong. If he was beaten by Li Xiqing, could he forgive Li Xiqing in the future? Could he? No way. Standing at the door for a while, Su Qianxi made sure that she did not hear any bad sounds before she took Ursa to her room and gave her a bath. Li Jianxian was put down, his little face was angry and his eyes were red, but the tears refused to fall. He looked at Li Xiqing as if he was looking at a criminal who had committed a heinous crime. Li Xiqing released the water. When he turned around, Li Mosen had already taken off his clothes. He urged, "Desu, quickly take off your clothes. Let's take a bath together." Li Jianxian snorted and turned around. Li Xiqing turned the water on and said to Li Mosen with disdain, "Ignore him. This guy wants to go out and bathe with girls. He's not a man. You're the one who wants to bathe with a girl. You're not a man." Li Jianxian shouted angrily. Li Xiqing began to unbutton his shirt. The expression on his face was still disdainful as he said, "Isn't it? You must want to bathe with your mother and sister because you are no longer a boy, so you don't want to bathe with us. Mosen, let's despise him together." When Li Mosen heard that, he stuck his tongue out at Li Jianxian. "I despise you." Li Jianxian's face became redder and he shouted, "Who said I don't want to take a bath with you? So you miss me?" Li Xiqing looked at him with a faint smile. "No one showers with clothes on. Are you shy?" As he spoke, he had already taken off his pants. Chapter 664. Li Xiqing tested the temperature of the water and took Li Mosen in. Li Mosen cheered. "It's so comfortable. Desu, come in." Li Jianxian took off his underwear. Just as he was about to walk in, his body was suddenly picked up by a big hand. The little guy only felt a burst of comfort in his heart, and his little face was inexplicably red. Then the whole person had already fallen into the water. Li Xiqing also took off his clothes and stepped in. Li Mosen smiled happily inside, and his blue eyes looked as beautiful as sapphires through the mist. Li Jianxian squatted in the big bathtub, and there was a special feeling in his heart. He was taking a bath with an adult, he was really taking a bath with his father. Li Jianxian blinked and heard Li Mosen exclaim saying, "Uncle's feet are so hairy. Hey, there is hair here, there is hair here, there is hair here." Li Mosen's reaction was as if he had discovered a new continent, and his face was full of surprise. Li Jianxian couldn't help but look in the direction pointed by Li Mosen, and finally saw the mighty domineering of an adult man, and couldn't help but clamp his legs. So disgusting. Li Jianxian blushed, hugged his knees and let the water cover his chin. "You don't know how to take a bath yourself?" Li Xiqing looked at the two little guys and took the jar next to him. "Bubble bath, what the hell?" Li Xiqing threw the thing back, took a soap and waved to Li Jianxian. "Come here." Li Jianxian snorted, turned his head and ignored him. Li Xiqing chuckled. Who did this kid's temper resemble? It was so strange and weird, like a fried dough twist. Seeing that he ignored him, Li Xiqing waved to Li Mosen. Li Mosen half swam and half crawled over and soon sat in front of Li Xiqing. It was also the first time that Li Xiqing bathed a child. He applied the soap to him and then realized that he needed to wash his hair. He picked up the shower head to wash the little guy's hair and then rubbed his body. It was the first time that Li Mosen was bathed by a man, especially by such a father-like figure, and he was both happy and excited. Looking at Li Jianxian sitting on the side with an unhappy face, Li Mosen expressed that he did not understand what this guy wanted to do. If it was his father, he would definitely ask his father to take him out to play. Li Xiqing patiently bathed him, put him aside and waved at Li Jianxian. Come here. Li Jianxian was unwilling and continued to sit in the water. Without hesitation, Li Xiqing pulled Li Xiqing over and rubbed his hair and bathed him the same way. It was just that his movements were clearly more practiced and gentler. God knew that this was the first time Li Xiqing had served a child, but he was so patient. Even he found it incredible. After changing the water several times and cleaning the two children, he suddenly realized that he hadn't brought any clothes with him. Wrapping a towel around his waist, he carried the two children out, one in each hand. Li Mosen's eyes were shining, and Li Jianxian was also a little stunned. That was amazing. She was hugging both him and Mosen at the same time. Li Jianxian blinked and looked up at Li Xiqing's face, which was very similar to his own. Chapter 665. After searching for a long time, Li Xiqing found two sets of cartoon pajamas for boys, a set of blue Ultraman and a set of gray checkered pajamas. Li Xiqing threw the Ultraman to Li Mosen and the checkered pajamas to Li Jianxian. He said, "Wear them yourself. A man must learn to be self-reliant." Li Mosen nodded with excitement and looked at Li Xiqing with admiration. He said, "Uncle, you are so amazing. How do you know that this is mine and that is Daisu's?" Li Xiqing did not answer but helped him unbutton and chuckled. "Do you want to know?" Li Mosen nodded and looked at him with stars in his eyes. Li Jianxian also looked at him. In his eyes that were the same as Li Xiqing's, his dark pupils were shining brightly. Li Xiqing glanced at Li Jianxian and asked, "Do you want to know too?" Li Jianxian met his gaze and blushed. He said, "I don't really want to know." With a chuckle, Li Xiqing said, "Because Daisu is my son." Li Mosen heard it and felt amazing. He nodded as if he understood. Li Jianxian was stunned and the wonderful feeling in his heart rose. Because he was his son, he knew that the clothes were his? Li Jianxian did not quite understand what this sentence meant. Before he could figure it out, Li Xiqing had already stood up and said, "I'm going back. You two get dressed and play by yourself. Go to bed early." "Okay, uncle. Bye." Li Jianxian did not speak. Li Xiqing glanced at Li Jianxian and touched Li Mosen's head. "See you tomorrow." "Yeah." But when Li Xiqing walked to the door, Li Jianxian said, "You haven't put on your clothes yet." "Are my clothes here?" Li Xiqing only asked one sentence, then opened the door and walked out. Li Jianxian blushed and he was a little excited. This kind of excitement came inexplicably, but Li Jianxian's mood that had not been very happy today suddenly became better. Li Xiqing walked back to the room wearing only a bath towel. When he opened the door, Su Qianxi was shocked. She hurriedly pulled him in and took a look outside. Fortunately, there were no guests. This fellow was too audacious. Su Qianxi turned around and closed the door. However, before she turned around, a hot body hugged her from behind. It was so strong that she was caught off guard and let out a yelp. He turned her around and pressed her against the wall. Lowering his head, he kissed her lips, his big hands roaming all over her body. She struggled a bit but did not even get rid of his lips. Pushing him away, she looked inside. Li Xiqing did not notice her strangeness. His big hand slid down her thigh onto her butt and moved upward. She pushed him hard and even used her knees, but he was getting stronger and stronger. There was no room for her to struggle. "Mommy, I can't pull it up." A tender voice came from inside with an aggrieved crying tone. Li Xiqing suddenly opened his eyes and let her go. Su Qianxi gasped, blushed and pushed him away, saying, "What's the hurry?" The little guy ran out holding his nightdress, his little face blushing, and ran toward her with his short legs. The original channel is on QQ Reading. Those who read pirated versions and come to scold me, please have some self-respect. Everyone, please support the original version. Chapter 666. The little fellow ran out of the room, tugging at his nightgown. His face was flushed and he ran towards her with his short legs. Li Xiqing immediately went into the bathroom not far from the door and closed the door. Seeing the clothes Li Jianue was wearing, Su Qianxi didn't know whether to laugh or cry. The little girl's head and one hand were through the neckline, and the other sleeve had been put on. The little hand was holding the clothes under the armpit, looking at Su Qianxi with a pair of wet eyes. Li Jianue did not notice that another man had just appeared here. She pouted and said, "The clothes are so hard to wear." Su Qianxi squatted down and pulled her hand up. Gently blocking the neckline with her hand to prevent the clothes from rubbing the child's skin, she whispered, "Come on, reach up, yes, shrink in." Guiding the child to untie the clothes, Su Qianxi put them on again. After fiddling with them, she scratched her little nose and picked her up. "Mom will take you back to sleep." "Oh." Li Jianyue put on her clothes, but she was still a little depressed. She pouted and said, "Where is Dad?" "Dad is in the bathroom." "Ursa, be good. Go back to sleep. Let Dad take us to play tomorrow, okay?" "Okay." Li Jianyue finally recovered and let Su Qianxi take her back to her room. Li Jianxian and Li Mosen were sitting on the ground playing a puzzle. The puzzle was on the bed. Su Qianxi put Li Jianyue on the bed that they used as a table, and the little girl immediately looked around happily. Su Qianxi looked at the time. It was already 20:39 in the evening. She sat on the bed next to them for a while and stayed there until 9 o'clock. She confiscated their puzzle, put it on the high counter and warned, "Go to sleep. Get up early tomorrow morning and play together." "Okay." Li Jianyue cheered. "Where to play?" "Let Dad take us there, okay? So go to sleep now and get up at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning. Do you hear me?" "Okay." Li Mosen also responded. Li Jianxian did not speak, but a pair of dark and clear eyes were full of hope. Su Qianxi's heart softened slightly and turned off the light. "Good night." "Good night, Mom." "Good night, Auntie." "Good night." She closed the door and suddenly her heart was beating fast. "Time to go back to my room." Thinking of his enthusiasm, she couldn't help blushing. He walked to the door and took 2 deep breaths. After gathering his emotions, he gently turned the doorknob and opened the door. It was dark inside and the air conditioner was on. She closed the door, locked it and walked in. It was pitch black inside and even the curtains were drawn. One couldn't even see their fingers in front of them. She took off her shoes, climbed into bed and whispered, "Honey?" His voice was very soft as if he was a thief. There was no response. When she just sat on the bed, she was suddenly pushed down by a strong force. A pair of big hands were messing around her waist. She laughed and said, "Stop scratching." Her mouth was sealed and she felt that even her breath was taken away. His kiss, hot, wild, explosive and undisguised passion. It had been 4 years. Chapter 667. Li Xiqing bent down and picked up his daughter. He glanced at Captain Li and said, "Don't think so much when you're old. It's not good for your health." Captain Li's face turned even redder. He glared at him and said, "Brat, I'm your grandfather. If you weren't my grandfather, I wouldn't care about you. Right, Ursu?" Li Xiqing's expression softened as he looked at his daughter. He looked at the little one's sportswear and said, "Let's go. Daddy will take you for a run." Li Jianxian and Li Mosen were playing with the car. When they saw their sister being picked up by their father, there was a trace of envy in their clear eyes. Hearing Li Xiqing's words, their hearts beat faster. They were a little nervous and a little expectant. Blushing, Li Jianxian quickly lowered his head and continued to play with the car in his hand. Wow, wow. Li Jianyue was a little excited. Her white and tender face was pink. She grabbed Li Xiqing's collar excitedly and looked down at Li Jianxian. "Brother, Daddy will take us for a run." Li Mosen also raised his head and his eyes were bright. Li Xiqing saw Li Mosen like this and his eyes softened. He went forward and touched Li Mosen's head. "Let's go together." "Yeah." Li Mosen stood up happily and reached out to drag Li Jianxian. "Desu, let's go for a run." Li Jianxian pouted and said unhappily, "He didn't ask me." Li Xiqing heard that and couldn't help but laugh. He pulled his little arm up and rubbed his little face. He said, "Why are you so awkward? Who do you take after?" Captain Li was silently drinking tea. When he heard this, he said, "Weren't you like this when you were a child? You acted like the whole world owed you. Now you know how to talk about your son?" "I wasn't so awkward when I was a child. This kid must have a genetic mutation." Captain Li glanced at him and said, "You and your father are exactly the same. Even if you don't look at the face, your temperament is almost the same. I can tell at a glance that you are biological." Li Jianxian heard these words from the old man, and his little face became even redder. He looked up at the tall man in front of him. A pair of clean and clear eyes were filled with a sparkling, unknown light. Seeing his expression, Li Xiqing chuckled and said, "Of course, he is my biological son." As he spoke, he put Li Jianyue down and stuffed her little hand into Li Mosen's. "Bring your sister and follow me." Li Mosen nodded and looked at Li Xiqing with admiration. Immediately, Li Xiqing's gaze fell on Li Jianxian. Li Jianxian subconsciously took a step back. But then he saw Li Xiqing reach out to him, lift him up and exclaim, "Let's go." Li Xiqing said, "Let's go." Li Jianxian was shocked and shouted, "What are you doing? Let me down." "To carry you." Li Xiqing carried Li Jianxian out of the door and swung him in his hand. The little fellow was so frightened that his little heart was thumping wildly, but when he looked down, He had an extremely wonderful feeling. Daddy was hugging him. Mosen, bring your sister and follow me. Okay. Li Mosen held Li Jinyue's hand and quickly jogged to catch up. Chapter 668. So scary, so high. Li Jianxian looked at the ground, a little scared, but felt the big hand next to him holding him. The little guy couldn't help but get excited. So high, so high. Yesterday his sister was lifted high and now it was his turn. It was really fun. Li Jianxian's little face was red with excitement. Looking down he was a little excited, and his little hands unconsciously held his father's head and looked back. Li Mosen held Li Jinyue's hand and looked envious. Both of them ran with short legs to catch up. This man was just walking and they couldn't even catch up with him by running. With this awareness, Li Jianxian suddenly felt that this man was so powerful. He was a man. This man was his father and it was a great feeling. Li Jianxian smiled happily and shouted behind, Mosen, catch up. Feeling that the little guy was happy, Li Xiqing smiled and said, hold on tight, I'm going to rush. With that, Li Xiqing held him with both hands and suddenly ran. The speed was very fast and Li Jianxian felt so excited that he was about to fly. He couldn't help but scream, ah! The wind poured into his mouth and Li Jianxian heard the echo. His little face involuntarily burst into a happy smile, and the laughter was crisp. Li Xiqing was in a better mood. He turned a corner and ran back in the direction of the two little guys. Suddenly, Li Jianxian felt his body was light, and he screamed in fear, but then his body was firmly held by a pair of strong arms. Li Jianxian was scared and opened his eyes wide, but the feeling of excitement and happiness was even more memorable. So fun. So exciting. Is it fun? Li Xiqing looked down at him, a pair of dark and deep eyes with a little smile looking at him, eyes slightly curved like a sky full of stars, bright and bright. What beautiful eyes. Li Jianxian looked at this pair of eyes and his cheeks were hot. He couldn't hide his smile and nodded. Fun. Then Dad will take you to play often in the future. Dad. Li Jianxian nodded and raised his arms excitedly. I still want to play. Let's go. Li Xiqing lifted him up again and Li Jianxian laughed happily. Li Jinyue and Li Mosen followed behind. The little girl pouted and looked unhappy. Daddy is bad. Why didn't you lift me up? Li Mosen looked on enviously from behind. He held Li Jinyue's hand and comforted her. I'll hug you later. Really? Really, I like Ursa the most. Li Jinyue was elated. She tugged on her pants and shook off Li Mosen's hand. She ran forward with her short legs and shouted, Daddy, I want to be raised high. Li Mosen quickly followed and shouted, Ursu, be careful. The old man walked out of the front yard with his walking stick. Seeing this scene he laughed happily and turned to Lu Sa, who was busy, and said, That's more like a family. Chanchan has suffered all these years. Lu Sa also smiled. Isn't it? Now that the second young master is back, the children are happy, and the second young mistress is also happy. While talking, she looked at the clock hanging in the living room, smiled, and whispered to the old man, You haven't gotten up yet. You must be tired. When the old man heard Lu Sa's words, he coughed lightly and walked inside with his walking stick. He said faintly, Don't think so much when you are old. It's not good for your health. Chapter 669. When Su Chenxi woke up it was already cold. Looking at the time it was already past 8 a.m. Seeing the time on the alarm clock, Su Chenxi suddenly got up, but when she moved she felt very sore. Asshole. Su Chenxi held her waist and got out of bed. Looking down, her neck and collarbone were covered with purple spots. It was not deep but it still looked a bit scary. Su Chenxi had a headache. Wrapping herself in a shirt, she went into the bathroom. Especially after seeing the mess on her body she wailed, Asshole? How can I face people like this? In the summer she couldn't wear a high-collared shirt, could she? Or a silk scarf. No, this is way too crazy and it's way too obvious, alright. After taking a shower and applying hot water, it seemed to have faded. Su Chenxi picked up her concealer and applied a few layers. After making sure it was better, she wrapped herself in a bathrobe and walked out. Her hair was wet. Su Chenxi wiped her hair and walked out. When she was drying her hair, the door was knocked and Li Jinyue's lively and childish voice came shouting, Mom, get up. Soon the door was opened and Li Jinyue ran in wearing pink sportswear and pink sneakers. She rushed to Su Chenxi and pulled the hem of her bathrobe. She shouted, Mom, go out to play. Dad said he would take us out to play. Hurry up. Su Chenxi was drying her hair, wearing nothing under the thin bathrobe. She quickly pulled the clothes back and coaxed, Ursu, Mom will be ready soon. Go outside and wait for me. Li Jianyue pouted, looked at her mother with a pair of big watery eyes and said with some grievance, Dad didn't lift me up, sob? Su Qianxi laughed and gently pushed her. Later let Dad carry you. Go out first and help Mom close the door. Okay. Li Jianyue ran out with her short legs, grabbed the door handle on her tiptoes and slowly walked out. Just before she closed the door, there was a tall shadow behind her. Turning around, Li Jianyue shouted, Dad. Li Xiqing took her little hand down and said, Go help Lu Sa pack things with your brothers. Dad will take you to a picnic later. Picnic? Li Jianyue's eyes lit up. She nodded and skipped away excitedly. Li Xiqing straightened up and looked at his daughter's back. His smile deepened. Opening the door again, she had just finished drying her hair and put down the hairdryer. Untying the strap of her bathrobe, she was startled to hear the door open. When she saw that it was him, she heaved a sigh of relief. Lock the door. I'll change my clothes. Li Xiqing's eyes darkened. He locked the door and walked in slowly. Su Qianxi went to the walk-in closet and opened the closet. Before she picked out the right clothes, Li Xiqing hugged her waist. He squeezed her neck, buried his face in her neck and whispered, Take the children to the beach for a picnic. Wear a long dress. Su Qianxi blushed, twisted her shoulders and said, Then let go of me first. I'll change. Not only did he not let go, but he became even more aggressive. His big hands climbed up her waist, and his lips came up to kiss the corner of her lips. Chapter 670. He did not feel the slightest sense of crisis. Chuckling, he whispered, Come on, hit me. She threw a punch at him, but in the blink of an eye, her hand was caught by him. Twisting her hand, she was pinned against the cabinet door by Li Xiqing. He looked down and sniffed her neck. Feeling a layer of concealer, he couldn't help chuckling. Su Qianxi blushed even more. Pushing him hard, she kicked him and said, Stop laughing. It's all because of you. His dark eyes became deeper. He put his big hand on the side of her face and kissed her. His knee was between her legs and his other big hand was around her waist, not willing to let go. Su Qianxi's dark eyes flashed with fear. Pushing him away, she shook her head in resistance. Li Xiqing smiled and bit her lips. Change. Su Qianxi blushed and pushed him away. Turning around, she found a light green floral dress. Standing on tiptoe, she felt for underwear on the top shelf. However, before she found it, a big hand grabbed it for her and asked, Looking for this? Su Qianxi grabbed it and pushed him. Go away. I'm changing. I'm not leaving. Which part of your body have I not seen? Putting his big hand against her, he raised an eyebrow and teased, Not only seen but also kissed and touched. What's there to be embarrassed about? Su Qianxi heard this and felt even more embarrassed. She pushed her away angrily and went to the washroom to change her clothes while holding her clothes in her hands. Watching her go into the bathroom, Li Xiqing didn't know whether to laugh or cry. He took out a pair of flat sandals of the same color from the shoe cabinet and put them on the ground. Looking down, he found that all his clothes and shoes were still there. It was spring when he disappeared and most of his clothes were long-sleeved. Could be seen that they were well maintained. The clothes still looked brand new. Most of them were business suits and shirts, and the ties were neatly arranged. Feeling warm, Li Xiqing's eyes became softer. Looking back, Su Qianxi had already put on her clothes and walked out. The sleeveless ankle-length dress made her look more gentle. Her long hair was past her waist and casually parted in the middle, making her look even more beautiful. Seeing the shoes on the ground, she quickly put them on and said, Let's go. Yes. The couple went out together. When Lu Sa saw them, she was very considerate and didn't ask or look at them. Li Jianxian, Li Jianyue, and Li Mosen were all carrying small school bags and sitting on the sofa in the living room. Each of them was holding a lollipop. Li Jianyue's was the biggest lollipop. When she saw them come out, she licked the candy and happily got down from the sofa. She ran over with her short legs and shouted, Mom, Dad, can we go now? Li Xiqing picked up the little girl, wiped the sticky corners of her mouth and whispered, Let's wait for Mommy to finish breakfast. Mommy will be hungry if she doesn't eat breakfast. The little fellow blinked and urged, Mommy, hurry up and eat breakfast. No, we'll eat when we get there. Su Qianxi walked over and took Li Mosen and Li Jianxian. Let's go. Lu Sa considerately gave Su Qianxi a yogurt. Then let's eat together later. Su Qianxi took it and thanked her. She looked at the children. Let's go for a picnic. Chapter 671. He led the children into the car, and the three children naturally sat in the back seat of the car. Su Qianxi sat in the front passenger seat and Li Xiqing drove. Su Chenxi opened the yogurt and Li Jianyue looked at the back and shouted, "Mom, I want it." Su Chenxi had just taken a sip, and when she heard Ursa say so, she handed the yogurt to the back. But before she handed it over, Li Xiqing grabbed her hand and pulled it back. He said seriously, "Ursu, Mom didn't eat breakfast. You can't take it from Mom. Mom will feel uncomfortable when she is hungry." Li Jianyue responded, looking in the rearview mirror, licking the lollipop in her hand, looked at the candy and handed it over. "Mom, do you want candy?" Su Chenxi chuckled and shook her head. "No, Ursa can eat it yourself." Li Jianqian and Li Mosen were holding a model in their hands. The two little guys were facing each other and disassembling it. They didn't even care about eating the candy in their hands. The sea in Kingstown was on the edge of the suburbs. Li Xiqing drove for more than an hour before reaching the destination. This was the only sea in Kingstown, and the flow of people was particularly large. However, because it was a tourist attraction under the jurisdiction of state-owned enterprises, it was also divided into VIP areas and ordinary areas. There were obviously fewer people in the VIP area, and it was much cleaner. Today's sun was not very bright and the weather was a little cloudy, but it was still hot around. The sea breeze was salty, mixed with the cool water vapor, and it was so comfortable that the little guys were a little excited. As soon as they walked in, the two boys threw all the models into their small school bags, and then gave all the small school bags to Su Chenxi and ran toward the water excitedly. Li Jianyue couldn't catch up with the two brothers. Squatting behind, she pouted and shouted, "Mom, the brothers won't play with me." "Get up, Mom will play with you." Su Chenxi took Li Jianyue's hand and looked at the two children excitedly wanting to get close to the water but not daring to get close. She smiled and shouted, "Mosen Daisa, take off your shoes first. Don't get them wet." "Okay." Li Mosen listened, took off his shoes and put them aside neatly. Li Jianxian followed suit. He put his aqua blue shoes next to Li Mosen's yellow shoes and ran barefoot toward the water. The sea rose and fell. Li Jianxian and Li Mosen laughed and ran after the sea, but as soon as the sea rose, they immediately screamed and ran to the side. When Li Jianyue saw that, she was also eager to try. She broke free from Su Chenxi's hand and ran over there. She took off the pink shoes on her feet and ran after her brother, shouting, "Brother!" Li Jianxian played by himself and ignored her. Li Jianyue pouted her lips and started running as well. Chased by the seawater, she ran at the same time as her brothers, but she ran slower than them. Her little feet were wet in an instant. Li Jianxian laughed unceremoniously. "Ursu, you idiot, you're too slow." Li Jianyue was unhappy. She ran towards Li Mosen and shouted, "Brother Mosen, take me out and play with me. I'm going to ignore Big Brother." Li Mosen ran towards Li Jianyue with a smile, took her hand and shouted, "I don't play with Daisu." The two little guys held hands and ran up and down the beach, chasing the waves, screaming and running away. Li Jianxian was unhappy. He ran over and took Li Jianyue's other hand and said, "The three of us will run faster." Chapter 672. Seeing that the children did not look back, she put her hand on his and said, "The year before last." She paused and looked up at his face. "You don't like him?" Mosen is actually a good kid, not like Tang Menjing at all. Neither her appearance nor her temperament was like Tang Menjing. Children needed to be taught. Heredity was not a big factor. Su Chenxi always believed that people were born kind. It turned out that Su Chenxi had taught Li Mosen well. When he was first picked up from the orphanage, he was very shy and introverted. He didn't dare to go out to play and always stayed alone. At that time, the two little guys, Daisu and Ursu, were just learning how to speak and calling him brother. Playing with the two little guys, Li Mosen became more and more cheerful. His temper became more and more lively and he was also very smart. Holding her in his arms, he chuckled. "This child is really good. She is well-behaved and sensible. It's all thanks to your good teaching. Tang Menjing is hateful, but the child is innocent." Su Chenxi looked at him. "When the director of the orphanage called me, I was working overtime in the company. At that time, Mosen had a fever for several days. The director took him to the doctor and the doctor said it was the flu. At that time, the orphanage was short of funds and many children were infected, but Mosen was the most serious. The director hoped that I could help those children. After Mosen recovered from his illness, he became a little dependent on me, so I simply adopted him and registered him under our household register." Reaching out to touch his hand, she looked up at him and said, "I knew you would come back. When I proposed to adopt him, you did not agree. I was afraid that you could not accept it, so I asked him to call me auntie instead of mom." Hearing that, Li Xiqing deliberately kept a straight face and said, Silly girl, this is called acting first and reporting later. At that time there was nowhere to play and you didn't come back. This child was too pitiful. At that time, apart from me, he didn't listen to anyone. He didn't want to eat and he didn't want to play with other children, so it's okay. Teach him well. Don't let him grow up to be an ingrate. Li Xiqing let go of her and whispered, I'm going to prepare something. There's a barbecue grill over there. You can bring the child to barbecue later. Alright, go ahead. Reluctantly, he kissed her neck and walked toward the barbecue grill. Su Qianxi looked around and blushed. Then she took off her shoes and walked toward the children. Li Mosun brought Li Jianyue there to pile up the sand. Li Jianyue used the stick left after eating the lollipop to poke at the sand. After digging up the sand, Li Mosun patted the sand, while Li Jianxian picked up shells at the side and kept putting them into Li Jianyue's pile of sand. Crap. Li Jianxian shouted, holding a small thing the size of a finger in his hand. He shouted excitedly, Mosun, look, there are crabs. Alive. After saying that, he ran over barefoot and threw the live crab into the middle of the pile of shells. Li Mosun watched from the side. He reached out to pinch the little thing and brought it to Li Jianyue. Chapter 673. Idiot. Such a small crab must have no meat to eat. Li Jianxian stared at the little crab and laughed at Li Jianyue mercilessly. The little guy's little face puffed up and shouted, You are the idiot. I'm not, you are. I am not, Desu is. Ursu is. Desu is. The two children were bickering with each other. Li Mosun was playing with the little crab. He suddenly threw the crab in front of Li Jianyue, scaring the little guy and making her scream. She immediately forgot to bicker with Li Jianxian and excitedly snatched the little crab from Li Mosun. Honey, come here. Li Xiqing shouted from a distance. Su Qianxi heard and waved back. She turned around and asked the children to throw the crab away. She led the three children to put on their little shoes and walked toward the barbecue grill where Li Xiqing was. Because it was Tuesday, there were not many people in the VIP area. There were other people barbecuing with their children on the barbecue grill next to them, but most of them were young couples. Seeing Su Qianxi, most of them had already recognized her. They couldn't help but look in the direction of Li Xiqing. After seeing Li Xiqing clearly, they all suddenly realized. Li Xiqing chose the one on the edge, farthest from the crowd, the cleanest, the largest and the best equipped place. A transparent glass barrier separated this unique place. Opening the door, Su Qianxi found that the air conditioner was still on inside. The children went there and sat down. Su Qianxi took out the snacks and lunch that she had brought and put them on the table. The children ate the snacks and watched Li Xiqing's elegant and slow barbecue. A small range hood on the top sucked away the smoke, and the coal on the barbecue grill was burning red. Dad is so awesome. Li Jianyue yelled happily while eating the snacks. Dad, I want to eat meat. Okay. Li Xiqing was barbecuing and adding seasoning. A pair of deep eyes were slightly curved. Through the barbecue grill, it looked even more eye-catching. Su Qianxi was slightly absent-minded. Li Xiqing curled his lips and whispered, Don't look at me. I can't help it, Mrs. Li. Su Qianxi blushed and glared at him. She whispered, The baby is still here. Don't teach him bad things. Hearing her words, he looked up at her innocently and asked, Did I say something I shouldn't have? Su Qianxi paused, thought about it and was speechless. Her face turned even redder. She lowered her head and stopped talking, focusing on the bag of chips. The smile on Li Xiqing's face widened. He handed the sausage to Su Qianxi and said, Be careful, it's hot. Su Qianxi took it, put a clean paper plate on it, cut it into small pieces and gave it to the children. Be careful, it's hot. No one noticed that the harmonious scene inside had already been captured by someone. After Li Xiqing was busy, the children were all full and even Su Qianxi ate a bit too much. The family of 5 took a walk by the beach to digest their food. The 3 children ran around happily. Li Jianyue ran to find the little crab, but found that the little crab had already run away. The little guy touched the water with his bare feet and from time to time he took out some small shells and played with them. Chapter 674. Li Xiqing and Su Qianxi sat on the edge of the beach, watching the children step on each other's shadows, chasing each other and laughing. The lively and happy laughter reached everyone's ears, and their mood became peaceful. The sun was setting and the white clouds were dyed orange-red, so beautiful that it made people lose their minds. Su Qianxi looked at the top, where there were a few small clouds floating slowly, and suddenly became 5 human figures. 2 big and 3 small, one of which had 2 small braids. Su Qianxi excitedly patted the person next to her, pointed up and said, Look, don't they look like us? Li Xiqing held her waist with one hand and looked at the place she was pointing. His eyes softened and he chuckled. Yes, even God made a family portrait for us. Yes, a family portrait. Hurry up and take a picture. Where's your phone? Su Qianxi did not bring her bag and she reached for his pocket. Li Xiqing slightly flinched and his sensitive throat tightened. Su Qianxi did not notice his strangeness at all. She picked up her cell phone and took a few pictures of the 5 little clouds. Li Xiqing's phone was just bought yesterday, the latest model with a particularly high resolution, and the fiery little clouds looked particularly good in the picture. Su Qianxi looked at it and smiled warmly. Look, do you think it looks good? Yes. Li Xiqing's eyes darkened and he looked down at her, but he did not look at the phone from beginning to end. Su Qianxi set the picture as the desktop. Looking up, she saw his deep eyes, so deep, so deep. Seeing his gaze, Su Qianxi blushed and slightly shrank back. But Li Xiqing moved faster. He reached out and clasped her head, lowering his head to kiss her fresh red lips. Li Xiqing's kiss was very light, very soft, and had nothing to do with lust. It was just a passionate kiss. After the kiss, his voice was soft and magnetic. Let's go home. It's late. Su Qianxi looked at the time. It was already past 6 p.m. and dinner time had long passed in the old house. Blushing, she got up and drove the children away from the beach. After cleaning their feet, she helped them put on their shoes, and the family of 5 went to dinner together. After dinner, they returned to the old house. The couple helped to bathe the children. After the bath, she held one and he held 2. The 3 children were sent directly to bed. The children had been crazy all day and soon fell asleep. When they returned to the room, it was past 8 p.m. When Li Xiqing was taking a shower in the bathroom, she received a call. It was Luo Zhan. Hello, sister-in-law? Did you go to the beach today? Hearing that, Su Qianxi felt a bit surprised. Sitting on the sofa, she chuckled. How do you know? It's not just me. The entire Weibo knows about it. A lot of netizens are attacking you. Go online and take a look. You've become a trending topic. Punish me? She felt strange. Are you sure you didn't use the wrong word? What did I do to offend the heavens? Chapter 675. Okay, go ahead. I'll have a look. Su Qianxi quickly hung up the phone, opened her Weibo and clicked on the hot topics. The first few were very popular stars. Su Qianxi scrolled down and saw her own photos. The title was striking, Happiness or Selfishness. Female CEO agreed to the proposal of an infatuated man and then rekindled her love with her ex-husband. Seeing this title, Su Qianxi wanted to vomit blood. What the hell was this title? Infatuated man? Louis Han? Well, he was quite infatuated. However, at that time she did not directly agree to Louis Han's proposal, but as Louis Han said, it became a bet. The last time she met Louis Han was when he gave her a note, which announced, "You won." After that, she never saw Louis Han again. Ex-husband? Only a divorced husband could be called an ex-husband, right? Feeling suffocated, Su Qianxi patiently looked at the person's document. After Su Ci, the female president of LS, agreed to the proposal of Qian Li's president, Louis Han, her ex-husband returned, and all the previous vows were invalid. Today, she took her 3 sons to the beach of Kingstown with her ex-husband. With an ex-husband in front and a spare tire behind, she is so happy. Such *T. Su Qianxi was so angry that she almost smashed her phone. Was there anyone who could fabricate right and wrong like this? Such empty words had hundreds of thousands of likes and hundreds of thousands of replies? God damn it. Su Qianxi clicked on the first picture of the blogger's screenshot. It was her Weibo post a few days ago with only 4 words, "Bless me, love." Below was an attached picture, roses, a diamond ring and half of her and Louis Han's faces. The second picture was Louis Han's Weibo. It was not much different from the time she posted it, but it was the first time Su Qianxi had seen it. Louis Han, today I am 8 meters, laugh, laugh. The attached picture was a beautiful crystal long table with a delicate candlelight dinner on it. A ring and a bunch of roses were on it, but there were no people. It should have been taken before Su Qianxi arrived. There were not many likes and comments, even less than 1/10 of Su Qianxi's. There were 7 more photos below, all of which were secretly taken at the beach today. The children's faces and the couple's faces were not censored. They were posted just like that. Su Qianxi was so angry that her hands were shaking. She clicked on the comments and there were indeed a lot of comments against her. Single dog plus 111. I knew it. I knew a female CEO couldn't be clean. I didn't expect her to be a 2-timer. Her Majesty Queen loves me 8. Awesome, sister word. Not only can you manage the company but you can also manage men. Awesome. Louis Han's wife. I feel sorry for my Lou. If I hadn't been blind, how could I have fallen in love with her? Cry. At the same time there were also many who spoke up for her. Modest my Sue, a mentally handicapped child seeking attention. Appraisal complete, helpless, no money you you. Is there something wrong with the blogger's brain? Ex-husband my ass. Li Xiqing and Susu have never divorced, okay? Hands up, so the legendary keyboard warrior is like you, inverting right and wrong. Lu Kai is the third son, hands up. It's Lu San who keeps chasing after our Susu. Are you blaming our Susu for her charm? Her true love has been missing for 4 years and Susu is sincere to him. Now she has returned in a high profile. Who will she choose? The blogger is retarded. Chen Susi 520. Picture comment, blind people come here. There are pictures to prove the truth, hands. Chapter 676. Su Chenxi was furious. She opened the new Weibo account and attached a photo taken with Li Xiqing's cell phone today. 1. This is my personal emotional problem. My private life does not need to be explained to anyone other than my family. 2. Such actions not only infringe upon our rights of reputation and likeness, but also seriously fabricate facts out of thin air. Such actions constitute defamation. 3. I never let photos of my children appear in public places. I do not deny that I am a public figure, but my children are not. Please be sure to delete the photos. Otherwise you will receive a letter from my lawyer. See you in court. For Li Xiqing is my husband. I love him very much. I have never divorced him. There is no ex-husband at all. I will not think about divorce now or in the future. 5. The fire 4 years ago did not take away my husband. I have always believed that. Anyone who has been following me these years knows that. Now that he is back, can the rumors about my neurosis, paranoia, hallucinations and schizophrenia, as well as the harm and speculation about me stop? Finally, thank you all for your attention and support. LS is with you. As soon as she sent the post, her phone kept ringing. The comments were all over the place. Amazing Chan, I am so handsome. At the end of the advertisement I was shocked by it. Chan call Lao Shui. Cool. That's how it should be. Those idiots are completely irrational. A honest little cutie. Every time Susu posts a photo with her children she censors it. That idiot doesn't censor it at all. But the children are so cute, especially the girl. I want to kiss her. She is so cute. Brother Isabet says, that's how it should be. Why talk to an idiot? I'm a fan. Huan Quan. So what about the proposal? Avoid the important and dwell on the trivial? Su Chenxi scrolled through Weibo and found a new post in her circle of friends. Reading the content, Su Chenxi became silent. Louis Han, thank you for your attention. Chan and I are good friends. We have known each other for 13 years. I have always cherished this friend. Please don't make wild guesses. Acting cute? Everyone who knows Chan knows what kind of person she is. She is very charming. This is beyond doubt. We have been like this for more than 10 years. Sending flowers is just to commemorate the 13th anniversary of knowing each other. The diamond ring means that our love is stronger than gold and more eternal than diamonds. Laughing, everyone is thinking too much. Chan Susi, hurry up and explain. You can't screw over your best friend like this? I'm so busy that I have to deal with this kind of sh*t. Play by yourself, or else I'll be confiscating your birthday present. Her heart ached slightly and her eyes soon became hot. Li Xiqing came out, drying his hair with a towel around his waist. Seeing her like this he frowned. What's wrong? Su Chenxi shook her head and clicked on Louis Han's comment. Louis Han's wife. Really? That's not what you said last time. Heartache, cry, goddess of the melon eaters. I see. Thinking, I believe it. This person is dead. Go to die. Oh my god, is that true? I knew Susu would not say yes to you. It turned out to be a best friend. Applause, great. Chan Susi. Humph, if you dare to confiscate our Susu's birthday present, I will not download your software. Bite me if you dare. Chapter 677. Many of Louis Han's comments were from Su Chenxi's fans. Su Chenxi reposted Louis Han's post and replied, Cry. Don't do this to me. Do you know that you will be hated like this? Their usernames were either related to Su Chenxi or LS, so they were easy to recognize. Su Chenxi looked up at Li Xiqing and said, Honey, yes. Li Xiqing frowned and wiped away her tears. His eyes fell on her phone. Taking her phone and reading the comments, his face became colder and colder. Su Chenxi noticed his mood change and took the phone back. After locking the screen, she warned him, "Don't say anything. Louis Han has almost solved it for me. Something goes wrong again, you can try it." "I won't." Li Xiqing spread his hands and gently pushed her, coaxing, "Good girl, go take a shower first." Su Chenxi looked at him suspiciously with a warning look and then walked into the bathroom. After using Su Chenxi's phone to browse through Weibo, Li Xiqing's face became more and more gloomy. These keyboard warriors were so arrogant that they did not need to pay a price to criticize others. Li Xiqing's face darkened. Taking his phone, he downloaded Weibo and logged in. Then he began to edit the post. After about 10 minutes he posted it. "Li Xiqing, it's been 4 years since I left. Fortunately, everything is still there. The bad guys did not succeed. The wedding I promised Mrs. Li 4 years ago did not happen. Welcome everyone. The time and place will be announced later. I am Li Xiqing." No pictures, no expressions, or even symbols. It couldn't be simpler. But those who knew him knew that it was Li Xiqing's style. As soon as Li Xiqing's post was posted, it was reposted faster than Li Xiqing had expected. Picking up Su Chenxi's phone, he found that the post she had just forwarded had tens of thousands of likes and more than 20,000 comments. Searching for his name, Li Xiqing used Su Chenxi's account to forward the post and typed a few words: "Hug. Blow kiss. Honey, I love you." Seeing these words, Li Xiqing's lips curled. Hearing the bathroom door was opened, Li Xiqing turned off the 2 phones and put them aside. She let her hair down and draped it over her shoulders. Seeing him like that, she felt a bit weird. Pulling at her robe, she went to pick up her phone, but he pulled her down on the bed with him. He turned over and pressed her under him, saying, "Playing on your phone at night is not good for your body and mind. Why don't we do some exercise to help you sleep and relax?" Su Chenxi blushed. In fact, she wasn't wearing anything under the bathrobe. But she didn't want to do that now. She pushed him away and reached for the phone on the bedside table. "I'm just taking a look." "Don't look at that. Look at me." He untied the towel around his waist and kissed her shoulder. "I'll go first." "Ah, what's the hurry, ugh?" Li Xiqing's big hand held her body and whispered in satisfaction, "You've grown a lot. You're even softer." Su Chenxi shrank her neck and blushed. She said, "It's always like this after giving birth." He untied her bathrobe, put his big hand on her butt and said in a low, seductive voice, "Another one?" That. Chapter 678. Not anymore. Su Chenxi looked at him and whispered, "We already have a son, a daughter, and an adopted son. Why do we need so many?" Li Xiqing heard that and smiled. Tapping her nose, he said, "I didn't take care of the children when they were young. How about having another one for me to try taking care of a child? Family planning, Mr. Li. Now with the reform we can have more." As he spoke, he had already lowered his head and sucked on her lips. Gently rubbing and tasting, he put his lips on the corner of hers and whispered, "How about it?" Su Chenxi looked up at him with her dark and bright eyes. Suddenly she laughed and said, 10 months of pregnancy. Can you bear it?" Hearing this, Li Xiqing frowned. Thinking of the hard days he had endured, he frowned and said, "What should I do? I didn't buy a condom. I didn't take the medicine either. Last night? They did not take any protection last night?" Li Xiqing pursed his lips, his voice low and gentle with a hint of temptation. "Then let nature take its course. If he comes, we can't avoid it." After saying that, the dense kisses had already landed lightly on her chin, brushing past her neck, gently sucking on her collarbone, sucking on her chest. His movements were gentle and sincere, like the most loyal believer, worshipping his only faith, carefully and lovingly. Today he was much gentler than last night. Obviously he deliberately suppressed himself. Until the end, Su Chenxi felt very relaxed and fell into a deep sleep. Li Xiqing cleaned up and took the phone next to him. Under his Weibo, there were actually tens of thousands of comments. Clicking on it, he found that many people wished them well. "I'm blind who should cooperate with you. It's been 4 years. It's hard for Su Chenxi to be alone. Fortunately you are back. I hope you are happy. Love, I'm trying not to beat you. Come back to life. I thought you were dead, you know? All kinds of news are reporting that you are dead, you know? Why don't you go home if you are alive? Did you lose your memory like what was written in Xiaoyan? Car accident? Or did you save the world like Ultraman? No matter what, be nice to your wife. It's not easy for her. Despise. Invincible Thunderbolt Marshal 888. What? Wedding? Where is it? Can the audience go there? Hey, if you want to go, please like me. There were all kinds of comments, but seeing that no one was scolding her anymore, Li Xiqing felt relieved. Taking Su Qianxi's cell phone, he opened the chat software and immediately saw a WeChat message from Lu Yihan. Don't pay attention to a lot of words on the internet. We know our own business. I wish you happiness. Second, we will always be good friends. Li Xiqing looked at the message and sneered. Good friends? Did Lu Yihan think that he did not know how he felt about his wife? It was completely Sima Zhao's intention. Dasu now refused to call him dad, mostly because of Lu Yihan. His eyes darkening, Li Xiqing quickly typed on the keyboard and replied. She was so tired that she fell asleep. This is Li Xiqing. Chapter 679. She was so tired that she fell asleep. It was Li Xiqing who replied. There were only a dozen or so words in the reply. It was simple and straightforward. However, Lu Yihan looked at it for a long time and thought for a long time before he seemed to understand what the other party wanted to say. His handsome face became more and more gloomy. With a sneer, Lu Yihan's hand holding the phone tighter and tighter. The unwillingness in his heart made him feel a dull pain in his chest. All the suffocation turned into a strong force, and he smashed the phone at the door. The phone smashed into the door, leaving a mark on the sturdy wooden door. The phone fell to the ground and suddenly broke into pieces. Lu Yihan suddenly got up, went to the study, and took out the liquor that he had kept for a long time. White wine, wine and red wine were all taken out. A glass of white wine was poured down his stomach, and the burning feeling rushed up from his throat. However, the suffocation in his heart did not decrease, but became more and more intense. Not knowing whether it was because of the white wine or something else, Lu Yihan only felt a burning pain in his eyes, and a layer of mist suddenly condensed in front of his eyes. Li Xiqing. After a few more glasses, the drunkenness rushed to his head, making his eyes even more painful and hot. She had already agreed to his proposal. As long as he was given a little more time, he could really take her home and announce that she was Lu Yihan's wife and belonged to him. But why did Li Xiqing have to come back at this time? Why? Li Xiqing had been gone for so many years and died for so many years. Wouldn't it be better to just die outside? Why did he come back? Why did he come back to deprive him of the only happiness he had? It would be good to let him be happy for a few more days. The more Lu Yihan thought about it, the more ridiculous he felt. Leaning on the table, Lu Yihan held the glass and chuckled. However, the boiling hot liquid had already flowed down unknowingly, burning his heart. It was so fierce, so intense. Like a drop of highly concentrated sulfuric acid. When it fell, thick smoke rolled up, blinding his eyes and blurring his vision. Li Xiqing was back and she was very happy. In the photos on Weibo, the family of 5 was so harmonious. Her smile was so bright, with the radiance of happiness so beautiful that it was intoxicating. 4 years ago, when Li Xiqing was still alive, she also smiled like that. Only Li Xiqing could give her a smile like that. Who was Lu Yihan? Staring at the white wall in front of him for a while, Lu Yihan's smile widened and he sneered, "Idiot." Throwing the glass away, Lu Yihan pried open the lid of the liquor and poured it directly into his mouth. The strong and choking liquid poured into his nose, causing him to cough loudly and tears to flow down his face. Headache, eye pain, but heart pain. In the end, she couldn't hold it in any longer. She leaned on the table and cried bitterly. Just as Luo Zhan said. Since ancient times, no mistress had a good ending. Male mistresses are more hateful than female mistresses. He wanted to be that Shimin Qin, but his Chanshan was that Wang Baochuan, the Shui Pingue who had finally arrived after waiting bitterly. From the beginning to the end, he had never truly interfered between them. Countless facts had proved that Lu Yihan was just a joke. Chapter 680. Ridiculous. The liquor bottle was thrown hard and the bottle fell to the ground with a loud sound, instantly breaking into pieces. Luo Zhan just took out the key outside and heard the loud sound inside, which made him shiver. Awesome, brother word. Luo Zhan silently swallowed his saliva outside. After opening the door, he saw the bodies of the wine bottles, wine glasses and mobile phones lying on the ground. He clicked his tongue and then stepped in carefully for fear of being hit by something stupid. Li Xiqing was back. Some people were happy while others were sad. Lu Yihan was undoubtedly one of the few people who were sad. Sighing in his heart, Luo Zhan had already expected Lu Yihan's reaction. He just did not expect Lu Yihan to be so angry that he smashed things. It shouldn't be. Did Li Xiqing do something to him? With his years of understanding of Li Xiqing, Luo Zhan felt it was very possible. His sympathy for Lu Yihan was even deeper. Stepping away from the bodies on the ground, He went in and saw Louis Han wearing the clothes he had worn to work today lying on the table. On the table, there were all kinds of bottles, all of which were the ones that Louis Han had collected in his study. F***ck after collecting for so long, it's all gone just like that? Luo Zhan finally realized how much pain he was in. Seeing the wine that couldn't even be bought with money being wasted like this, he felt a pang in his heart. He silently picked up a few bottles and placed them on the wine rack in the study. After running around 3 times, he finally finished moving all the bottles. He reached out and touched Louis Han, but Louis Han did not move. Luo Zhan reached out to pull his hair up and found that his face had turned red. Seeming to notice that he was being lifted, Louis Han's eyes opened slightly. His eyes were bloodshot and he looked a little scary. Luo Zhan was shocked and suddenly felt sorry for him. Since ancient times, too much love leads to regret. Luo Zhan helped him up and shouted, "Hey, get up and go back to the room to sleep." Louis Han's eyes were overflowing with transparent liquid, and he held Luo Zhan's hand tightly with great strength. Luo Zhan was shocked and was about to say something when he heard him shout, "Qian." Luo Zhan was dazed but immediately felt annoyed and roared, "Qian my ass. I am your Uncle Luo." "Qian why?" Louis Han not only did not let go, but also reached out to hug him, buried her face in his waist and burst into tears. Luo Zhan wanted to push him away, but after hearing his words he couldn't bear it. What's wrong with me? Why can't you see me? He's already dead. Why aren't you willing to accept me? If we got married earlier he wouldn't have a chance. Qian, how tragic, he died a horrible death. Although Louis Han was also a computer nerd, he was very stubborn. Self-respecting, self-reliant, high EQ, high IQ, and extremely patient and persistent in dealing with people and matters. At such a young age, Qianlu had already enjoyed a certain level of fame in the country, but why did she fall in love with a married woman? Well, she wasn't married when he fell in love with her. But after so many years, why didn't he give up? Chapter 681. Yes, things like love were always hard to predict. Although Louis Han had known Su Qianxi for a long time, his pride was too strong. Because of his family's poor condition, he wanted to start a career first and then start a family. So he did not dare to confess his feelings to Su Qianxi. However, when he succeeded in his career, things had changed and he was destined to be just a good friend with her. "Hey, I sympathize with you." Luo Zhan patted him on the shoulder. "Go back to sleep. Don't get drunk." Louis Han did not let go, holding his waist, breathing a little fast. Luo Zhan felt that he was so unlucky. He pulled him up, one hand under his armpit, the other around his waist, and dragged him into the room. However, Louis Han was a man of 185 pounds, strong and drunk. Luo Zhan alone was really a bit of a stretch. After dragging for less than half the journey, Luo Zhan was directly exhausted. Unable to drag him, he simply threw him to the ground. Gasping, Luo Zhan also collapsed to the side. "Oh my god, why are you so heavy? You look so thin." Luo Zhan rested for a while with his hands on his hips and dragged him again. After a few minutes, he dragged him back into the room. Luo Zhan threw him on the bed and sat on the edge of the bed, panting like a dog. After a break, he went around to help him take off his shoes and socks. After that, he found that Louis Han was sweating all over and felt even more speechless. He found the remote control, turned on the air conditioner, and adjusted the temperature to 24 degrees. Then he threw the remote control away, closed the door and left. After a busy day, he still had to deal with these things when he came back. Luo Zhan felt so tired. Cleaning up the glass fragments of the wine bottle, he put the broken phone away and pressed a few times. Well, it was directly disabled. Taking out the card, Luo Zhan put it aside. After cleaning up and taking a shower, Luo Zhan went to sleep. Just in the middle of the night, he was awakened by the sound of banging. Getting up with a start, Luo Zhan opened the door and ran out. This was originally a single apartment with 2 bedrooms and 1 living room, and the bathroom was outside. The sound was coming from the bathroom. Luo Zhan walked in and found Louis Han lying in the transparent bathroom cubicle. The showerhead was pouring water on him. His crooked suit was soaked through, and the situation didn't look good. Luo Zhan held his forehead and asked helplessly, "Brother, do you want to take a cold shower to calm down in the middle of the night? Can't you just give me some peace of mind?" As he spoke, he had already turned off the water. Li Xiqing reached out and pulled Louis Han. Louis Han shook off Li Xiqing's hand. His face was red and his eyes were blurred. He stuttered, I went to the bathroom, went the wrong way, damn. Why the F***ck did you pee in the toilet?" "Flush, Luo Zhan? Well, he must have thought of the bathroom as a toilet bowl. Lifting him up, Luo Zhan looked helpless. Too heavy. My God, how much do you actually weigh? Louis Han was a little better than before. He got up by himself and put half of his arm on Luo Zhan's body. Heavier than you, taller than you, stronger than you, you weak chicken. Luo Zhan was furious. He put him down and said angrily, "Go back yourself. I served you and you despised me. Why don't you go to heaven?" Chapter 682. Louis Han laughed, reached out and grabbed Luo Zhan's pants. Luo Zhan was wearing pajama pants, which were big and elastic, and they were pulled down by Louis Han. "What are you doing? Are you a hooligan?" Luo Zhan kicked his hand angrily, quickly pulled his pants back and shouted, "Do you know who I am?" Luo Zhan, Louis Han said honestly, his cheeks were red and his eyes were blurred. "No. I am your Uncle Luo." Luo Zhan looked like he was not worth teaching and reached out to pull him up. "Let's go back to the room." Louis Han obediently got up and as he walked, he reached out to unbutton his clothes. But his eyes were blurred and after a long time he couldn't even unbutton one. He stumbled and his body swayed. Luo Zhan opened the door of his room, and Louis Han lowered his head to unbutton his clothes, and unexpectedly hit the door. Bang! It was a huge sound. Luo Zhan had a headache. Turning around, he saw Louis Han covering his face and giggling. Turning around, he pulled his hand down, and then saw that Louis Han's hand was full of blood, and near his nose and mouth there was red blood. Damn. So hard? Ah. What the hell? Ah. Luo Zhan laughed mercilessly, almost going crazy. Louis Han's nose was bleeding and seeing him laughing like this, he was not happy. He reached out and pushed him, a little unhappy. "What are you laughing at?" "Ah." Louis Han silently touched his nose, and reached out to touch Luo Zhan's body. Luo Zhan very cleverly avoided a step back, and with a provocative look he said, "Can't touch." But then Louis Han slammed the door in and Luo Zhan only saw the light dim and then, there was a sharp pain in his crotch. Luo Zhan wailed and tears burst out. Vaguely he seemed to hear the sound of eggs breaking. He bent over, covered his penis and curled up on the ground in pain, unable to say a word. Louis Han did not expect that his retaliatory action would cause such a result. Shocked, he stumbled forward. Louis Han saw him like that and knew that the situation was not good. He asked, "Is it very painful?" "What do you think?" Luo Zhan covered his crotch with tears in his eyes. "I'm still a virgin. Why are you doing this to me?" "Let me see." Louis Han felt a little guilty. As he spoke, he reached out to take off his pants. Luo Zhan was horrified. He covered his crotch tightly and shook his head desperately. Although Louis Han was drunk, he still had some consciousness. At the same time, she was also quite strong. She forcefully pried his hands open, and then without saying a word, she pulled down his pants. Luo Zhan felt as if he had been struck by lightning. He quickly got up and crawled outside. Louis Han was confused, but he didn't see anything. How could he let him run away? He stretched out his long hand and dragged Luo Zhan's ankle. Luo Zhan wailed, "No. Louis Han, even if you can't get my sister-in-law, don't mess with me. I'm not gay." Louis Han was speechless. He pulled him hard and Luo Zhan directly fell to the ground, feeling pain. Then Louis Han pulled hard and opened the door wide. With the light from outside, he opened his eyes wide and looked at the place where Luo Zhan had just hit. Dizzy, Louis Han couldn't see anything clearly. Chapter 683. Luo Zhan dragged his pants, turned around and pushed him hard. His cheeks were slightly red and he shouted angrily, "Go away, drunk people should behave themselves." After that, he hurriedly got up and pulled his pants open to have a look. He deliberately found the place with the brightest light. After thinking for a long time, it seemed that there was nothing wrong with it and it did not hurt as much as before. Looking back, Louis Han was half lying on the ground, and his nose was still bleeding. It was so miserable. Luo Zhan suddenly felt that he was an angel, a fairy. His heart was so kind. "Ah, I really owe you." He went forward to help him up, let him lean against the door and went to find tissues. He grabbed a pack of tissues for him to wipe his face, and then went to find a pack of wet tissues from Louis Han. After wiping his face clean, he plugged his nostrils with the tissue. The nosebleed soon stopped. Luo Zhan helped him take out the tissue, patted his face and growled, "Get up, go back to bed." Louis Han was half drunk and half awake. When he heard this, he wanted to get up, but his body was not strong enough. Before he could sit up straight, he fell back down again. Luo Zhan hurriedly held him and dragged him toward the inside. But Luo Han's body had been soaked by water and he was soaked. With a heavy sigh, Luo Zhan reached out to unbutton him, took off his suit shirt and then touched his pants. Oh my god, he was soaked. Unbuckling his belt, Luo Zhan unbuttoned his pants, and the straight and handsome pants were pulled down. Luo Zhan suddenly felt relaxed. Humph. Make me delicious food tomorrow and I will fry you up. Damn, I am so tired. Luo Zhan lifted his hands, carried him on his back and quickly threw him on the bed, only a few steps away from the bed. Luo Zhan lay on top of him, deliberately pressed his body and snorted, "Good, make me delicious food tomorrow. Do you hear me?" After that he threw his hands back, but at this time, Luo Han's big hands not only did not leave, but also pulled him. Luo Zhan immediately fell down, and his body fell steadily on top of him. "Oh, don't go." Luo Han was half awake and shouted. Then he held Luo Zhan and rolled onto the bed. Luo Zhan's eyes widened and inexplicably his cheeks were slightly hot. But in the next second, as if struck by lightning, he struggled madly and shouted, "Hey hey hey, don't mess around, young man. How many times have I told you I'm not gay, I'm not gay, I'm not gay?" After pushing Luo Han away, Luo Zhan climbed up and felt that his face was burning. What the hell? Damn it, he's crazy. Luo Zhan was so angry that he stomped his feet. He turned around and kicked Luo Han's butt, which was only in his underwear. Pervert. Damn drunkard. Holy shit. After 4 or 5 kicks, Luo Zhan withdrew his foot. And Luo Han was kicked awake. He turned around and looked at Luo Zhan. His cheeks were red and his eyes were also red. He was looking at him blankly and had no idea what had happened. Luo Zhan felt guilty when he looked at him like that. He turned around, stomped his feet and left, slamming the door, making a loud noise. Chapter 684. Luo Zhan went back to the room, fell on the bed and looked up at the ceiling. It was already dawn, but Luo Zhan couldn't fall asleep. Thinking of the inexplicable feeling just now, Luo Zhan found a very serious problem. Could it be that he had already? The night was as dark as ink and it was drizzling. This was a small affiliated village far away from downtown Kingstown. There were small old houses everywhere. In the village there was a small restaurant in the east. Just a dozen meters away from the restaurant, there was a smelly and dark alley. There were a few tall garbage cans in it and stray cats, stray dogs and cat-sized mice were running around. A tall, slender figure was wrapped in tattered, dark-colored clothes. The clothes did not cover her body, revealing her deep cleavage. At the same time there were also 2 long white and sexy thighs. However, her hair was messy like a bird's nest, forming a sharp contrast with her unusually fair and delicate skin. At this moment she was squatting next to a garbage bag, turning over the fresh leftovers that the restaurant had just thrown out. It was already late at night and the surroundings were dark. There were not many cameras on the roads in the village and not many people would choose to go out at this time. After the restaurant owner closed the door, he looked around. After making sure that there was no one, he rubbed his hands covetously and walked into the alley. He had been paying attention to this woman for a long time. Her figure looked particularly good and her skin was very good, but she looked a little crazy. It was estimated that she was the silly daughter of a rich man who got lost and wandered by herself. He didn't expect that he could find such a loophole. Rubbing his hands and walking in, the restaurant owner quickly found the woman he had been coveting for several days. He walked over and whispered, "Miss?" The person who was called turned back, and a pair of eyes looked particularly beautiful under the streetlight. The boss felt even more excited, and his eyes flashed with obvious covetousness. He said, "Do you need help? I see that you have been here for several days. Why don't I take you to a place to wash?" The woman did not speak. The boss tentatively reached out, gently put his hand on her hand and pulled. The woman did not resist and the boss was even happier. He whispered, "Where do you live? Do you want me to contact your family?" The woman shook her head as if she was extremely frightened. The boss was even more certain that this woman must be a fool. He joyfully pulled her up and tentatively pushed aside her messy hair that looked like a bird's nest. With the help of the street lights, the boss could clearly see her thighs, her big breasts and all kinds of beautiful female symbols. He was drooling. Finally, his gaze landed on her face. The boss used his fingers to push her hair aside and suddenly, his heart skipped a beat. The boss screamed and took a step back. In the next second he tripped over a trash bag on the ground and fell on his butt. The boss was filled with fear. He looked at the woman in front of him and turned pale with fright. Under the woman's disheveled hair, there was a huge fire scar on her face. She looked ferocious and terrifying, so ugly that people couldn't help but run away. Chapter 685. Hee hee. The woman chuckled and walked towards the boss. Her long legs were full and smooth like jade, and her voice was as beautiful as a bell. However, her face had become a nightmarish existence. The restaurant owner screamed in horror and stepped back. He wanted to get up, but the woman had already pounced on him and pulled him over. Rumble. The muffled sound of thunder was suppressed, as if it was ringing in his ears. Didn't you want to have sex with me? Why are you running now? I can do it. I'm very clean. The voice was soft and the woman's little hand had already touched the restaurant owner's face. The woman's voice was very soft and charming. It was not hard to imagine that before her face was disfigured, she must have been a great beauty. Lightning flashed. Combined with the street lights, the restaurant owner clearly saw her whole face. He was shocked and lost his voice. Aren't you Tang something? Tang Menjing laughed. You have a good memory. The stench of a homeless man made the restaurant owner nauseous. However, Tang Menjing had clearly noticed his intention. With a pair of murderous eyes, Tang Menjing pressed his head hard and stabbed the dagger hidden in her hand into his throat. As soon as the dagger went in, the bright red blood splashed. Because of the pain, the restaurant owner's pupils suddenly enlarged. He twisted and struggled crazily, his hands and feet twitching, trying to catch her, but soon she dodged. Tang Menjing stepped down and sank the dagger deeper into his throat. The restaurant owner twitched a few times and then there was no more movement. His eyes were wide open, looking up at the dark sky covered with dark clouds. The fresh and bright look in his eyes became empty inch by inch. Tang Menjing loved this process. Holding his head up, she gently kissed his forehead and whispered, "Rest in peace." As soon as she finished speaking, she reached into his pocket. There was a wallet, a bunch of keys and a pile of bills and receipts. Squeezing her fingers into the neck, Tang Menjing pulled out the dagger. Bright red blood spurted out and splashed on her body. The dagger was full of bright red blood. Tang Menjing wiped it on his body and put it away. Standing up, Tang Menjing dragged him by his legs and hid him behind a pile of trash cans inside the store. After dealing with everything, he leisurely walked out, opened the restaurant door with his key, locked it from the inside and swaggered into the lounge of the restaurant. There were a few sets of middle-aged men's clothes and they were very big. After taking a hot shower, Tang Menjing carefully washed her knotted hair and blew it dry before putting on the middle-aged man's clothes. White shirt and black trousers, very big. Fortunately, she had a belt. After fastening it, Tang Menjing went to the cashier and put all the money into her pocket. There were more than 2,000 in total, enough for her to get back to Kingstown. Then, it was time to find out. She put on a mask and went to the kitchen to find a chef's hat. Holding the umbrella, she went to the back of the alley, found her high heels and left with the umbrella. The rain was getting heavier. The blood on the ground had already been washed away, leaving no trace behind. The figure went farther and farther. In the middle of the night in this small village, no one noticed anything wrong. In the boundless darkness, under the pitter-patter of the heavy rain, a voice quietly rippled out. "Li Siqing, I'm back." Chapter 686. Early in the morning about 5 o'clock, the baby began to cry. Cheng Yu was in a daze and called, "Rong Rue." "Yeah." Rong Rue's voice sounded. Cheng Yu noticed that he quickly got up and went to the small crib next to her to pick up the baby. Cheng Yu heard that the baby was crying less and fell asleep holding the quilt. When she woke up again, it was already dawn. Cheng Yu rubbed her short hair and looked around. There were no children or men. After getting out of bed and washing, she opened the door and heard a female voice coming from outside. Cheng Yu was immediately alarmed and walked quickly to the living room. At a glance, she saw Su Chenxi holding her daughter. On the sofa there was another man sitting. Before Cheng Yu could see clearly, she was pushed back by Rong Rue. Looking at her, she found that Rong Rue was looking at her with some reproach. He said, "Go get dressed. There is a guest." Cheng Yu was wearing a thin negligee. Hearing that, she touched her nose and went back in. After changing clothes, Su Chenxi was playing with the baby. The little girl, who was more than a month old, looked at her with a pair of amber eyes, as if she had seen something novel. Looking sideways at the other side of the sofa, she saw a man sitting across from Rong Rue. Wearing a straight and neat suit, his profile was angular, and his temperament was obviously softer than 4 years ago. Cheng Yu saw him, stared and exclaimed excitedly, "Boss?" Hearing her voice, Li Siqing turned his head and looked over. His originally expressionless face still did not change. However, this was Li Xiqing. Was really Li Xiqing. Qing Yu was shocked and immediately trotted over there asking, "Who am I?" Seeing her like this, his dark and deep eyes became deeper. Slightly raising an eyebrow, he asked, "You are asking me? Oh my God, it's really you?" Qing Yu was so excited that her eyes were red. Standing on the edge of the sofa, she exclaimed, "The news in Weibo have been going crazy recently, but seeing it with my own eyes, it really feels like a dream. Boss, you are finally back." Rong Rui had never agreed to let her visit. The reason was that the old house of the Li family was too far away from them. She was so angry that she stamped her feet. Fortunately, they did not go yesterday, and today they came, which was far beyond her expectation. Li Xiqing's eyes slightly curved as he asked, "I am back. Do you want to come back too?" Qing Yu was dazed. What? Wasn't she here all the time? Li Xiqing suddenly realized that his patience had improved a lot. He explained, "Come back and be my assistant. I'm not used to working with someone else." Okay. Qing Yu's eyes lit up and she did not hesitate. "I am bored to death at home." "No." Rong Rui vetoed. "The child is only a month old. He hasn't weaned yet." "I didn't say I should go now," she said. "You." Li said, "Mom." More importantly, Rong Rui was basically doing laundry, changing diapers, feeding milk, and coaxing the baby. These things were all done by Rong Rui. If she took the work from him, he would be angry with her. As a result, she spent most of her time at home playing games, holding the baby, cooking, and occasionally coaxing men. She had nothing else to do. If she continued like this, she would grow hair. Everyone went to bed early. Chapter 687. Obviously, it was the life that all women wanted, but Qing Yu felt that it was boring no matter how she lived it. It was at that time that she knew what "everyone has his own ambition" meant. No. Rong Rui stopped her, looked at her across Li Xiqing and said, "I can still afford you. Don't go." "Oh, it's not a question of whether I can afford it or not. I have to find something to do. Otherwise it will be too boring at home." Qing Yu looked at him and pouted, a bit coquettishly. Rong Rui couldn't stand her look the most. Looking away, his tone was still firm. "I said no means no." Qing Yu knew that in a short period of time he would probably not agree. She simply stopped talking and would come back at night. Glaring at him unhappily, Qing Yu quickly turned and walked to where Su Qianxi was, holding her daughter. Rong Rui made coffee for Li Xiqing. The aroma of freshly ground coffee and the smoke were rising. The simple and exquisite coffee cup in his hand showed the taste of the owner. Li Xiqing looked at the exquisite and beautiful cup in his hand and asked casually, "Do you know where they are?" Rong Rui was adding a piece of sugar to the coffee. Hearing Li Xiqing's words, he slightly paused, gently stirred the coffee spoon and raised an eyebrow. "Oh. You know who I am talking about." The voices of the two men were very low. Su Qianxi and Qing Yu were playing with the baby. Although they knew that they were talking, neither of them paid attention to what they were talking about. Rong Rui took a sip of coffee and chuckled. "New coffee from Italy. The taste is not strong at the beginning but strong at the end. Try it." Li Xiqing suddenly smiled, took a sip of coffee and nodded. "It's really good. Don't you want some sugar?" "I like plain coffee." Slowly putting down the coffee cup, Li Xiqing looked at him with a faint smile. With a sharp look, he slowly said, "Tang Minjing also ran away." "I know." Rong Rui felt that it was not enough and added a little more milk. "But I have nothing to do with her for a long time. Even if you ask me, I don't know. I only ask them." They, of course, referred to them. Rong Rui knew very well who he was talking about. However, Rong Rui still looked calm. His amber eyes looked innocent as he shrugged. "I really don't know." The smile on Li Xiqing's face widened. "Qing Yu still doesn't know that those two guys are your relatives, right?" Rong Rui's eyes darkened and he chuckled. "Are you threatening me?" "I'm just asking. Why are you so nervous?" Compared with Rong Rui's gloomy face, Li Xiqing looked calm. He took a sip of coffee, elegant and noble but inexplicably irritating. Rong Rui's face darkened. "I won't let her go back to work for you. She will come back." "No." Li Xiqing squinted at him and said, "I know her better than you do. Li Xiqing, you are even more annoying than before." His sinister and cunning skills had also reached the pinnacle. Thinking of the defeat of TL and the Bo group, Rong Rui couldn't help but be impressed by this man, and he was even more afraid of him. However, this did not mean that he was friendly to him. Li Xiqing raised his eyebrows. "You are not bad either." Rong Rui still wanted to say something, but Li Xiqing had already turned his head, looked at Qingyu and suggested, "Why don't we have dinner together?" By the way. As he spoke, he had already looked at Rong Rui with a deep and provocative look. "Let's talk." Rong Rui secretly gritted his teeth. Despicable. That. Chapter 688. Qingyu did not notice the strangeness of Rong Rui. Hearing Li Xiqing's proposal, she felt a little surprised. However, holding the baby, she did not think much. She just glanced at Li Xiqing and happily said, "Okay, what do you want to eat?" "Just go to the place I used to like very much." Li Xiqing deliberately frowned, glanced at Rong Rui and said, "What is it called?" "Deep Sea Hui." Qingyu quickly answered. When Rong Rui heard Qingyu's words, his face suddenly became gloomy. Li Xiqing quietly curled his lips and nodded. "Yes, that's it. Do you want to make an appointment first?" "Okay, come on Susu, help me hold the baby. I'll go find a phone." Su Qianxi took the baby, and Qingyu quickly left, not noticing that her husband's face had become as dark as the bottom of a pot. When Qingyu entered the room, Li Xiqing suddenly chuckled, leaned on the sofa and said slowly, "She has been with me for 3 years. It must have taken you a lot of effort to pursue her, right?" Rong Rui looked sullen and did not speak. Su Qianxi looked at these two men and vaguely felt that something was wrong. Just looking at the atmosphere between the two of them, she knew it was not very harmonious, but she did not know what had happened. Li Xiqing met her gaze, looked calm and indifferent, stood up, tidied up his clothes and walked out of the sofa. "Let's go. Qingyu has already finished the phone call." "Okay." Su Qianxi also had a deep understanding of Qingyu's efficiency, but such words fell into Rong Rui's ears, which was not very comfortable. Qingyu had a crush on Li Xiqing, which he knew very well. And she did not hide her admiration and worship for Li Xiqing. Rong Rui had no doubt that if Li Xiqing insisted, or a little provocation, Qingyu would definitely change sides. It was just a matter of time. Despicable. Sure enough, just a few minutes after Li Xiqing's voice fell, Qingyu had already come out with her bag and a mother's backpack. Directly throwing the mother's backpack to Rong Rui, she went to the utility room and pushed out a stroller. After wrapping the baby in, she said, "Let's go, I have already booked a seat." But when she turned her head, she found that Rong Rui's face became even more gloomy. She looked inexplicably and asked, "What's wrong?" "I'm fine." Rong Rui's face gradually returned to normal, but he still looked pale. He shook his head and said slowly, "Let's go." Today, Li Xiqing was driving his old modified sports car, which could not fit the stroller at all. After Qingyu took the car from the garage, the 4 adults and 1 child went to the restaurant where Qingyu had booked a seat. Neither of the 2 women had a big appetite, and Qingyu and Su Qianxi quickly talked about their mothers. Li Xiqing looked indifferent, eating slowly. Compared with Rong Rui, who looked tense, he was obviously much calmer. "Qingyu," he suddenly called. She held the baby and looked up. "Ha! You know Rong Rui's family?" "Li Xiqing," Rong Rui interrupted him with a gloomy face. "Shall we go to your company later?" Li Xiqing raised an eyebrow and smiled. "Sure." Chapter 689. Our company. Qingyu had not removed her role from being the senior assistant of the Li family. After all, she had been there for 7 years. It was normal for her to have deep feelings for the Li family. However, it made Rong Rui even more upset. It was like his wife's heart was on another man's side, which was absolutely not a good feeling. "He just cares about you and wants to make sure you are safe, right?" Li Xiqing's voice was calm and he took a sip of tea. Rong Rui chuckled and said, "Yes." Both Qingyu and Su Qianxi felt that these two people were a bit weird and looked at them strangely. The two looked at each other and saw confusion in each other's eyes. After dinner, Rong Rui drove the 2 women to the entrance of a large shopping mall of the Li Group and sent them shopping. Then he drove away. Qingyu and Su Qianxi pushed the stroller into the mall and bought a lot of things. Just when they were sitting in a dessert shop, Su Qianxi saw a familiar face. A young man, fair and clean, with a thin face and pimples on his cheeks, wearing a pair of gold-rimmed glasses, was sitting and chatting with a woman. The more Su Qianxi looked at the man, the more familiar she felt. Qingyu noticed where she was looking and said, "Do you know him? This person seems to be a relative of Tang Menjing's family. His surname is Lu. This person should be a doctor. Don't you have a classmate named Lu Anan? She is this person's sister." "Doctor?" "Oh." Su Qianxi immediately remembered and said, "Lu Quan?" "Yes, that's him." "What? This person framed me. He lied to me saying that I had AIDS, which scared me so much that I almost divorced Li Xiqing. Su Qinxi later thought about getting even with him, but after all kinds of things she had forgotten about it over time. At this moment, seeing this Lu Quan, Su Qinxi could no longer hold back the violence that she had suppressed for a long time. Damn, no way? So unethical? Cheng Yu found it hard to believe. I heard that this guy got in because of his connections. Later, the Tang family lost, which seemed to have some impact, but now it seems that the impact is not big. Lu Quan was talking to the girl in front of him. He couldn't hear what they were saying, but from afar, he could tell that the girl was overjoyed. She couldn't stand it anymore. Wait a minute. With that, he got up and left. What do you want? No response. After about 10 minutes, she came back and sat in front of Cheng Yu. Where did you go? She'll watch the show. She took a sip of her drink and curled her lips. Not long after, a girl with exquisite makeup and a pair of sunglasses walked in aggressively. He walked up to Lu Quan, gasping for breath. Lu Quan and the girl opposite him were shocked. The girl in sunglasses slammed a stack of white paper on the table and shouted angrily, "Lu Quan! You bastard!" Lu Quan was stunned. Before he could react, the girl in sunglasses picked up the half-empty drink in front of the girl on the table and splashed it on his face. You're crazy. Lu Quan was so angry that he reached out to grab the girl. But the girl had already taken a big step back and shouted, Lu Quan, you're a doctor. Bah. As soon as he finished speaking, he turned around and ran while crying. Chapter 690. After that, a lot of people in the dessert shop looked over. On the pregnancy report, there was a big pregnant confirmed sign. The girl stared at Lu Quan incredulously. Lu Quan saw his girlfriend's expression and knew something bad was going to happen. He quickly waved his hand and yelled, "It's not me. I don't know her. That woman is a psycho. Baby, you." Before he finished, the girl slapped the report on his face and roared, "If it's not you, then what is going on?" Lu Quan was annoyed and yelled, "Are you King Psycho? I told you it's not me." This shout shocked even the passers-by and made them look inside. The girl's eyes were red from the yelling and soon noticed all kinds of strange looks around. How embarrassing. The girl stood up, clutching her bag. She picked up the coffee in front of him angrily. She splashed the warm coffee on his face and walked away. Lu Quan was furious and reached out to pull the girl. However, the girl was agile and could be seen to be a martial artist. She turned around and kicked him with her stiletto heels. Then she threw her bag and kneed him in the lower abdomen, roaring, F***ck-off, scumbag. Lu Quan covered his crotch and squatted down. His eyes were red and teary. Cheng Yu secretly clicked her tongue and whispered, "You did this?" She gestured for her to keep quiet and looked at Lu Quan with interest. Lu Quan covered his crotch but soon paid the bill and limped away. Some people had already taken photos and posted them on Weibo. When the words Lu Quan and doctor were put together, it would definitely cause a sensation on Weibo, and Lu Quan would be found out. However, it was not enough. She picked up her phone and clicked on Luo Zhan's profile picture. She sent a message, Lu Quan, a doctor of infectious diseases, the son of the Lu family related to the Tang family. His sister Lu Ainen helped me dig out all kinds of evidence about this family and this Lu Quan. I want to screw him up. Luo Zhan sent a horrified emoji and then a smirk. Z, you are in a good mood recently. Qinxi Su, no problem. Z, how did this person offend you? Qinxi Su, unscrupulous doctor with bad medical ethics. He lied to me and said I had AIDS. Although it was 4 years ago, I am still angry. Z, damn, of course. Leave it to me. Qinxi Su, ask my husband to give you a raise of salary. Z, sister-in-law, I love you. Seeing Luo Zhan's message, Su Qinxi smiled and typed, screenshot. That's not fair. You can't cheat me like this. She couldn't help laughing. She took a screenshot and sent it to him. When Li Xiqing received the news, he was in a nearby cafe. In the comfortable and elegant private room, there were only the two of them. Seeing her message, Li Xiqing glanced at it. His eyes softened slightly and he put it aside without replying. Looking at Rong Rue, he asked slowly, "Really?" "Of course. But you have to be careful. Tang Minjing has lost her mind. She has been seeing a psychiatrist all these years and her face is ruined. As long as she is not dead, she will come back to you. Take care of your wife and children. Bring bodyguards. Dash. Chapter 691. You don't have to worry about that. Li Xiqing stood up and looked down at him with a faint smile. Let's go. My wife is waiting for me to pick her up. Rong Rui also stood up and glanced at him contemptuously. Not only is my wife waiting, but I am also waiting. Oh. Li Xiqing nodded. My children are waiting at home. After a pause he added, twins. Rong Rui pursed his lips in disdain and walked out first. Li Xiqing said leisurely behind him, and an older son. Childish. Rong Rui was disdainful. What's there to compare? However, although he said so, he felt itchy in his heart. Li Xiqing had 3 children and he only had 1. What? No, he had to make a few more. He could not lose at the starting line. Rong Rui made up his mind and walked out. Li Xiqing raised an eyebrow and felt inexplicably happy. Childish? Felt so good, okay? Rong Rui took the car at the entrance of the cafe, picked up his wife, children and Su Qianxi, and finally went to the driver's seat. Unknowingly he noticed that there were different gazes around him. Rong Rui had no other advantages but he was very alert. Someone was following them. Looking around, Rong Rui whispered to Li Xiqing who was not far away, someone is watching us. Do you feel it? Hearing that, Li Xiqing just glanced at him leisurely, then opened the door of the passenger seat and calmly sat in. It seemed that he had known this scene for a long time. Rong Rui felt a bit incredulous. How could Li Xiqing be so calm? Frowning, he suddenly thought of what Li Xiqing had just said. You don't have to worry about that. So that was it. Rong Rui suddenly felt that he was still too naive and did not know this person well. Also, with this man's temperament, how could he not bring someone out in this situation? Chuckling, Rong Rui sat in the driver's seat and looked at Li Xiqing with an extra layer of brilliance that Qingyu and Su Qianxi could not understand. After the rain, the air in Kingstown was mixed with the fragrance of soil and grass. More than 100 meters in front of the old house of the Li family, there was a small lake. Next to the small lake there were tall trees, evergreen all year round. The small flowers and grass were fresh and beautiful. Today there were 3 drawing boards and 3 small stools by the lake. There were 3 little fellows sitting on the small stools. At this moment they were all sitting there methodically, holding crayons and drawing on the drawing board. 3 bodyguards stood around them, quiet and straight. The tutor was patrolling the surroundings while they were drawing. When she saw the mixed colors that Li Jianyue had drawn, she squatted down and asked, Ursu, tell me, what are you drawing? She pointed to a green line at the bottom of the white paper and said, This is the grass. She pointed to the blue lump in the middle. This is the lake. There was a dark green lump next to it and a brown one. This is the small tree. I haven't finished drawing the rest. I'll show you when I'm done. The tutor was amused and touched the little guy's head. You're amazing. Li Jianyue's little face was raised and she looked a little proud. Then she turned her head to look at Li Jianxian beside her and shouted, Brother, look at my painting. Chapter 692. It was very simple, but it was many times better than Li Jianrui's. Li Jianxian glanced at his sister's painting and cast a contemptuous look. It's ugly. Yours is ugly. Li Jianrui was unhappy and turned to look at the other side. Brother Mosen, do you think my painting is good? Li Mosen was painting the lake. When he heard Li Jianrui's words, he turned his head and looked at it carefully. He nodded. Yes. Li Jianrui was immediately happy. She smiled and walked down from the stool with her little skirt. Her chubby little hand reached out and hugged Li Mosen's little head. She kissed him and said in a sweet voice, Brother Mosen is so nice. Little Mosen's white and tender skin suddenly showed a faint pink on his cheeks. Li Jianrui did not realize what kind of reaction her actions had brought to Li Mosen. She smiled and returned to the stool and sat down again. She took the crayon and began to draw. The tutor and the bodyguards laughed and looked at Li Mosen with ridicule in their eyes. Although Li Mosen was young, he was already very sensible. When he met their eyes, his little face became redder. But he still pretended not to see it. He held a pink crayon and drew carefully on the edge of the small lake. The tutor found that he was drawing this little pink thing more seriously than when he was drawing other things. After looking at it, the tutor found that he wanted to draw a person with his lines. A little pink person? This little guy is drawing Li Ursu? The tutor didn't say anything. He looked at it silently with a smile on his face. It was harmonious and peaceful on the edge of the small lake. No one noticed that on the other side of the small lake, a woman was looking at this side with a telescope. A pair of eyes, after looking around, fell on the little boy on the far left. Dark brown hair, white skin different from other Asians, a pair of blue eyes, staring at the front, looking very pink and jade, with an extremely serious expression. She actually adopted this child. That's easy, haha. As soon as he returned to the company, Li Xiqing took over all the loopholes and drawbacks that had accumulated in the past. Just like that, he was busy for a whole week. Ming said he would return to Kingstown in 3 or 4 days, but a whole week had passed, and Li Xiqing had not seen him. He called twice to ask, and Ming said, yes, yes, yes. But what could possibly happen? Even Ming didn't know what was going on. He had finished his work a long time ago, but he didn't want to go back to the capital, because he had found the only regret he had ever spoken of. 3 days ago, after signing the last contract, he had lunch with his partner and was ready to catch the afternoon flight back to Kingstown. For years, for 4 whole years, Ming hadn't seen his good brother again. Hearing his voice again after being dead for 4 years, it was impossible for Ming not to be excited. That was why the journey to the airport was so hurried. However, extreme joy begets sorrow. The driver, who was almost sent flying by his urging, accidentally hit someone when he turned a corner. The driver turned pale with fright. He quickly opened the door and got out of the car to check. It was a woman who had been knocked down. Chapter 693. The driver immediately went up and asked anxiously, Miss, are you okay? The thing that was in the woman's hands had fallen to the ground. It was a laptop. It was the latest model of an internationally famous computer brand, worth more than 100,000 yuan. The woman's body was dirty, but she didn't have time to check herself at the moment. She quickly climbed to the computer. The body of the computer had a metal shell. At the moment, the body had been deformed. When it was opened, the screen inside had been broken. It looked very embarrassing. When the woman in the beige business suit saw the computer, her eyes were red and her voice was choked. Computer, my computer, 120,000 yuan. What should I do now? It's not mine. The voice was urgent and fast. It penetrated the car window and fell directly into Ming's ears. His face, which was originally gloomy because of the delay, suddenly changed. He hadn't heard this voice for 4 years. Was it an illusion? Ming's body was tense, but for a moment he forgot to react. In front, the driver glanced at the woman's body. There was not much damage, so he breathed a sigh of relief. However, when he heard the 120,000 yuan computer, he was also scared and his legs became weak. He shouted with some anger and guilt, 120,000 yuan? Girl, you are blackmailing me. Is this broken computer worth 120,000 yuan? The woman stood up and staggered. A large piece of flesh had been rubbed off from her knees and elbows. There was even sand deeply embedded in them and the blood was not flowing. At first glance it could be seen how hot it was. The woman was so angry that she picked up the computer and threw it at the driver. What do you mean? You hit me and you don't want to pay? You hit my computer and you have to pay for it. I am in a hurry to use it now. Give me the same one now. Hearing this voice again, Ming was pulled back to reality. It's her, it's really her. Ming's heart suddenly beat faster. He opened the door and stepped out. The driver was still a little guilty, but when he heard the woman's tone, he immediately became angry and said, You are a liar. You deliberately got hit here and then blackmailed me with a computer. Even those old men and women are not as ruthless as you. Lily still wanted to say something, but when she saw the tall man coming out of the car, her face suddenly changed. Even when she was hit by the car, her face was not so ugly. It's him. It's him. Lily subconsciously took a step back. Her heart felt like it was being pulled by a string. In an instant, it almost broke through her skin and burst out of her chest. For the past 4 years, the memories that he had deliberately tried not to recall suddenly poured out of his nest. Every image, every scene, outlined the 2 words that were deeply embedded in her soul. Ming, Ming. Lily looked at him in shock and wanted to escape. But computers? That computer was a new one that her boss had just received. It had just been sent for testing and brought back. It was just a distance of a road away. Even if you beat her to death, she would never have imagined that a computer that was worth more than $100,000 would be wasted on such a short journey. What was worse was that she couldn't afford it at all. Chapter 694. When she said this, she did not dare to look in Ming's direction at all. Lily was panicking, but she pretended to be calm and shouted, And the medical expenses. You must compensate me for the mental damage and the wages I lost when I was injured. Didn't you see the green light? Are you blind? Lily was not polite. She reached out and asked for the money, which was equivalent to asking for the driver's life. Of course, he recognized the brand and the model. The lowest standard cost tens of thousands. For an ordinary working-class person, this number was equivalent to an astronomical figure. How could he afford to pay for it? Helplessly he looked back at the car. Only then did he find that the distinguished person in the car had come down and was quietly watching everything that was happening in front of him. Ming stood behind the driver with a pair of peach blossom eyes with a sharp edge, sweeping over her bloody hands and feet. The original white and tender skin was deeply embedded in the sand at the moment. The skin was obviously badly abraded, and at the same time, it was like the same wound was rubbed on his heart. Unconsciously he had already felt the same. Obviously he had decided to forget this woman. As early as 4 years ago when she plotted to kill his children, he should have completely cut off the relationship with this woman. In the past 4 years, Ming had deliberately refrained from checking her news, as if she had disappeared from the world. But he did not expect that she would be in the capital. Moreover, she was so close to him. It turned out that she had been nearby these days? It turned out that they had been so close these days? Thinking of this, Ming immediately had an indescribable feeling in his heart. Master this. The driver was speechless and looked confused. I will send this lady to the hospital. You send the computer for inspection. After verification, find the company finance and I will pay for it. After 4 years, Ming's voice was a little more mature than before. At the moment his voice seemed a little cold. Compared with before he was a little less charming and a little less sloppy. After 4 years, Ming was not the same as before. When Yu Lily heard his voice, her eyes were hot, but she quickly reacted and roared, "What inspection? You can pay for it. I will go to the hospital myself." Master the plane? Ming looked at her indifferently. He looked at the driver and said slowly, "Didn't you hear me?" The driver trembled and nodded. He hurriedly picked up the broken computer. Yu Lily's expression changed. Wait. But Ming was the driver's boss. After hearing Ming's words, he didn't care about Yu Lily at all. He took the computer and ran away. Yu Lily's hands and feet hurt so badly that she stopped after a few steps. There were cars behind him and all kinds of horns were honking. Ming acted as if he hadn't heard her. He stepped forward and couldn't help but put his hand on the part of her hand that wasn't injured. Without saying a word, he pulled her to the car. Yu Lily's face was even paler and she yelled, "Oh, don't touch me." But Ming didn't care. He yanked her and threw her into the front passenger seat. He quickly walked to the driver's seat and sat down. Chapter 695. Ming's face was more serious. He reached out and pulled her hard, pressing her on the seat. He closed the door and without waiting for her to fasten the seat belt, he started the car and rushed forward. Yu Lily was caught off guard. She leaned forward and screamed with her hands on the airbag in front of her. She was still in shock. She turned her head angrily and roared with red eyes, Ming. In Ming's beautiful peach blossom eyes, there was an indescribable light. His heart, which had been empty for 4 years, was suddenly filled. The long-lost sense of fulfillment actually filled him up. Of course, the pleasure of revenge also continuously washed over him. Looking at what she was wearing, it was also very different from her previous style. There was no makeup on her face, her long hair was a little messy, her skin was a little dark yellow, and there were faint dark circles under her eyes. Her skin looked much worse than before. The style of the fabric was ugly, old and rustic, and the quality was very poor. Plus this pair of shoes, a set of clothes, would it cost 500 yuan? Or even lower. A 120,000 yuan computer was not as expensive as a bag he bought for her before. Seeing her so scared and anxious expression, Ming's heart flashed faintly. Seeing her so miserable, he was relieved. Look, even without her, he was still as carefree and unrestrained as ever, wandering among the flowers. Who can't live without him? It was just that she, Yu Lily, was once again beaten back to her original state of being the treasure in his hands. You deserve it. Out of the blue, Ming laughed and sped up. Yu Lily was a little scared by his laughter, and she was even more afraid. She pulled the seat belt over and buckled it, panting in shock. She knew him too well. Absolutely, can't fall into his hands. Yu Lily's heart was beating very fast, she gritted her teeth and her eyes were firm. The car stopped at the gate of the hospital. Yu Lily immediately opened the door and jumped out, running toward the back. Just then an empty taxi came over. Yu Lily was like grabbing a life-saving straw, reaching out and waving. But when the car just stopped, Yu Lily was lifted up by a big hand. Ming didn't say anything. He grabbed her with great strength and didn't show any tenderness. No, Ming. Yu Lily was afraid. She knew him so well. Ming was angry, very angry. However, compared to when he was angry in the past, he was more ruthless, more cold, and more frightening. Yu Lily squatted down, trying to use her weight to slow his footsteps and struggle free. Ming sensed her intentions and sneered. He simply bent over and carried her in his arms. My driver hit you. I should compensate you for your medical expenses. Miss Yu, please be quiet. Miss Yu. Those 3 cold words made Yu Lily feel a dull pain in her heart. Since they first met 7 years ago, Ming had either called her Yu Lily or Yu Lily. These 3 unfamiliar words coming out of his mouth made her feel even worse than if he had directly scolded her. She was wrong. One mistake for 4 years. But it was too late. She knew that he hated her. He hated that she had killed his child, hated that she had trampled on his heart. The blood on Yu Lily's body rubbed against Ming's and the wound was burning. Then you can give me the money and I will see it myself. How can you do that? Ming chuckled. What if you blackmail me? Don't forget that you have a criminal record, Miss Yu. Busy as a dog. Chapter 696. Yu Lily felt even more humiliated. She stared at him and roared, why don't you just give me a few thousand yuan? You are such a big group. Are you afraid of being blackmailed? I'm sorry. Ming strode into the hospital with her in his arms. He looked into the distance with a pair of beautiful peach eyes and said coldly, it's not easy to make money. I don't trust you. Yu Lily was speechless. She was so angry that her chest hurt. Someone in the hospital recognized Ming and immediately opened the door for him. Ming was invited into the emergency room. He threw Yu Lily on the bed. There was not the slightest bit of love or gentleness. Yu Lily fell on the bed and hit the wound. She sobbed with tears in her eyes. Seeing this, Ming was expressionless. He coldly said to the doctor beside him, she was hit by a car. Give her a checkup. Yes, Master. After that, despite Yu Lily's slightly surprised objection, Ming sat straight at the door and folded his hands. His hands were still stained with her blood. Ming stared at her for a long time and suddenly felt ridiculous. How big of a deal? He even brought this woman to the hospital in person. He looked at his watch. It had been more than 40 minutes. He couldn't catch the plane. He actually didn't even hurry to see his brother in order to revenge a woman. When did Ming become so narrow-minded? Leaning on the back of the chair in the corridor, Ming slightly narrowed his eyes and his mind was blank. Even he didn't know what he was doing. Fool, what was the difference between this Ming and the one 4 years ago? After the wound was treated and various examinations were done, Yu Lily came out after it was confirmed that there was no big problem. But when she came out, Ming was gone. She asked the nurse on duty and found that Ming had already left. Before he left, he also left a large sum of money for medical expenses. After deducting the money used for Yu Lily's examination, the rest of the money was more than 20,000 yuan, which was converted into cash and given to Yu Lily. Yu Lily looked at the 2 stacks of money in her hands and was in a trance. At the same time, her heart was also indescribably disappointed. Gone? Just gone? How could this be? This man actually left just like that. Yu Lily lowered her eyes and her head. Her big eyes were dim. He limped out of the hospital, took a taxi and left. What she didn't see was that there was a black sedan parked not far from the entrance of the hospital. Ming held a cigarette between his long fingers. The smoke slowly lingered and the smell of smoke filled the entire car. Leaning against the back of the chair, Ming looked lazy and casual. Ming watched helplessly as Yu Lily left before he started the car and drove back. The assistant stayed in the capital because Ming didn't show up. After waiting for more than 2 hours at the airport, she received a call from Ming. I still have other things to do. I won't be returning to Kingstown for now. The assistant was puzzled. Is there anything else? Even if there was something else, could it be more important than seeing Li Xiqing? No way, right? Young Master O. The assistant wanted to say something, but before he could say it, he heard Ming say again, help me check a person who should be working near the famous garden in the capital. Okay, what's the name? Name. Chapter 697. When the assistant heard the name, he felt a little familiar, but he couldn't remember where he had heard it. Especially her financial situation, marriage status, private life status, and work situation. In short, all of them must be checked. The assistant understood and quickly asked, Master O, is there any other schedule that is particularly important? Do you need me to arrange anything? However, Ming did not answer and the phone had been hung up. The assistant felt even more depressed. He deliberately opened the book and looked at Ming's schedule. It seemed like there wasn't any itinerary that was particularly important. Strange, however, Ming's mind was notoriously difficult to guess. If he guessed incorrectly, he might even make him unhappy. After thinking about it, the assistant decided to play dumb. Since he didn't answer the question, there must be a reason. When Ming wanted him to do something, he would ask. Why should he ask so much? The assistant suddenly felt very witty, and then went to check the so-called Lily. Ming had a suite on the top floor of the capital branch. When he moved in again, many people were very surprised. However, no one dared to ask, and they left in a hurry after dealing with it. Ming lay on the bed, closed his eyes, and felt very tired. It had been 4 years and he had lost too many things. The phone rang and it was the assistant. Master O, I found out that Lily came to the capital 4 years ago and now works in the Electronic Science and Technology Department of Xingfeng Group. She is just an ordinary IT worker. 2 or 3 years ago, after renting a room with a girl for a year, she was cheated of all her money, and the loss reached more than 1 million yuan. In addition to her poor health, she spent a lot of money. She is currently single and lives alone. It seems that she used to work in Kingstown. According to her colleagues, this woman is likely to have had a miscarriage, and her physical condition is very poor. Cheated of all her money? When Ming was supporting her, he hardly gave her any money. Basically, Lily got whatever she wanted and she didn't ask him for money. According to Ming's memory, the money she had received might not be as much as 1 million yuan. The loss reached more than 1 million yuan, that is to say all her money had been cheated, so how did she survive? What about socially? She is very popular and has a high EQ. She always smiles when she meets people, but she also has a personality and is very straightforward. But because of this, her boss doesn't pay much attention to her. Now in Xingfeng, her annual salary is between 100,000 and 150,000 yuan. She is also responsible for some small things and doesn't have many big projects in hand. Yeah, Ming responded, and then he didn't say anything else. The assistant waited for a moment and realized that Ming wasn't going to say anything else. Then he said, if there's nothing else, I'll hang up first. Help me check her address and send it to me. When the assistant heard this, he seemed to understand something. So, what was more important than seeing Li Xiqing was picking up girls? TSK, a typical example of valuing a lover over a friend. Although he thought so, the assistant didn't have the guts to say it out loud. He answered honestly, yes. After Ming hung up, the driver called. Chapter 698. Lily felt that she was so unlucky today. Not only was she targeted by Su Jing, but she also had to take the computer out of her busy schedule and was hit by a car. Not only that, but she also met Ming. Life was always like this. When people were unlucky, even a sip of cold water would get stuck in the teeth. Many parts of her body were wrapped in gauze, and she looked very embarrassed and miserable. When she returned to the company, the security guards all knew her. One of them had a good relationship with her. When he saw Lily coming back, he quickly surrounded her and was shocked. What happened to you? What the hell? He actually fell to this state. Although he was already next to her, he did not dare to touch her at all. He opened his hand slightly and looked shocked. Lily smiled brightly and waved her hand. What's with your expression? Haven't you seen a car accident like me? No way, you went to help Sister Su get the computer and had a car accident? Hey, don't say it. Lily looked like she could not bear to look back. The computer is broken, directly broken, and the person has not paid me yet. Wait for me to go back first and then I will tell you what happened. The security guard looked distressed. Lily, you are like this. Don't go up. Sister Sue's temper is so bad and she will certainly not stop scolding you because you are injured. Why don't you go down first and I will go and talk to you? No, you do your thing. Go ahead. Lily waved her hand and quickly walked in. But the smell of ointment was very eye-catching. Many people saw Lily like this and they would exclaim and ask, Lily, what's wrong with you? Along the way, Lily smiled so much that her face was stiff. Finally, she arrived at Su Jing's office. She rang the doorbell and went in. Su Jing was scolding a newcomer with harsh words. Lily had been in Xingfeng for less than a year. Su Jing was the head of the department and she was famous for being a tigress. She would scold a newcomer without saying a word, and once scolded him until he resigned. Although Lily was very popular in this department and was very popular among her colleagues, she couldn't let go of herself in front of this woman. The reason was just that she was beautiful. As a rich woman in her 30s, Su Jing was already married. At home she was also a strong wife and a weak husband. Half a month ago, when her husband came to pick her up from work, he took a few glances at Yu Lily and was slapped by Su Jing in public. Since then, Su Jing had been picking on her in different ways. She was so scared that she didn't even dare to put on makeup anymore. However, Yu Lily's show of weakness did not make Su Jing restrain herself much. Instead, he was targeting her more and more. With a sigh, Yu Lily limped in and called out, "Sister Su." Su Jing turned to look at her. Seeing her like that, she said in a bitter voice, "Oh, isn't this the belle of our department, Yu Lily? What's wrong with you? How did you end up like this?" Sour. There was an indescribable jealousy in his tone. Yu Lily silently bowed her head and said, "I was hit by a car on the way back to get the computer." Su Jing was shocked, and her first reaction was to blurt out, "What about the computer?" Yu Lily felt a little uncomfortable. This woman, she didn't ask me if I was okay now, but her first reaction was like this? The computer was damaged by a car. Chapter 699. Such a voice was full of disdain and contempt. Moreover, Su Jing was still so provocative. Such a sharp tone was even more unbearable. Anyone who heard such words would not feel good, let alone a woman like Yu Lily. Yu Lily seemed to see something strange. She glanced at her and sneered, "Isn't it just 120,000 yuan? Any bag I take out is more expensive than your computer." Everyone in the company knew that Yu Lily had a lot of bags, and each of them was a luxury product, which was incompatible with her usual clothes. But with Yu Lily's usual temperament and aura, it was very suitable. At the beginning, everyone still complained, but over time they got used to it. At the same time, such a situation also made many people very envious. Su Jing was one of them, but she couldn't afford it and her husband couldn't afford it either. At this moment, hearing Yu Lily's words, she immediately became angry and shouted, "What kind of attitude is this? What kind of attitude is this? You think you're great? I was hit like this. Are you fucking blind?" Yu Lily's attitude angered Su Jing even more and she roared, "I am your boss. It's normal to ask you to do something. It's because you are my boss that I help you do these things outside of work. This is your own personal computer, not the company's. You forced me to use my working time to get it, causing me to have a car accident. What about this account? Ha, it's funny. Do you have any evidence to prove that your car accident was caused by me?" Yu Lily heard the words, raised her eyebrows and sneered, "Do you have any evidence to prove that your computer was broken in my hands?" Su Jing was furious and shouted, "Is this the attitude you should have when talking to your boss? Boss, you're just a department head. Do you really think you're so great?" Yu Lily looked at her coldly without any warmth. "When I was the director of the O Group's clothing store, you were still in some remote corner." Yu Lily couldn't stand it. She was already angry, and in the past few years she had been extremely unlucky. She was cheated of all her money by her good friend, and it was not easy to find a job with a decent income, but she met such a boss. Su Jing did not cross the line in the past, so Yu Lily tolerated it. However, in the past half a month, Su Jing had become more and more outrageous and disgusting. Since she was going to be scolded anyway, she might as well avenge the people in the company. When Su Jing heard this, she laughed out loud. "What are you talking about? Clan? Do you know what that place is? You haven't even finished your university studies, yet you want to be the director of the O Group? Ah." Yu Lily dropped out of school when she was in her junior year, which was her eternal regret. At this moment, being brought up by Su Jing as a joke had undoubtedly stepped on Yu Lily's sore spot. Yu Lily looked at Su Jing coldly, and the temperature in her eyes was getting lower and lower. She sneered sympathetically and said, "No wonder your husband stared at me last time. It turns out that you look like a zombie when you smile. With your size 43 horse face, you need to use double hyaluronic acid, right?" You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.